Chapter 1009. Chu Yang frowned and said, I see. But then he thought again and said, that's not right. Why would the two of them agree to this method? Chu Yang smiled bitterly. In my tribulation space, their words and actions can't be hidden from me. They are all at the peak of supreme martial artist level. How could they? What you said is equivalent to not saying anything at all. Zi Shiqing's face was red and she said angrily, with their cultivation, if they don't want you to hear and see, do you think you can peek at them with your insignificant strength? Chu Yang still shook his head. It's still absolutely not feasible. No matter what, they won't agree. Even if I can't see it, this is still a huge humiliation to the two of them. So you're totally wrong about this matter. Chu Yang had absolute confidence that the Moon Breeze couple would definitely not accept such a method. Even if this method had a 10% chance of success, it was still absolutely not feasible. This involved the most fundamental issue of human dignity. If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely not agree, let alone Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro, whose names shook the heavens. Zi Shiqing fell silent. After a long while she said, maybe I'm thinking too simply. The shame and dignity of humans and some other things are all things that I can't understand now or I haven't tried to understand. Chu Yang nodded. That's right. Zi Shiqing frowned and said, in that case it's going to be troublesome. Chu Yang said in horror, you haven't already recommended me, have you? Not yet. Zi Shiqing frowned and said, but I've already told them that the Moon Breeze couple is not infertile. There's a way. She smiled bitterly. Right now, the two of them are probably looking for me all over Chenji City. I originally planned to recommend you to them once they find me. Then when the time is right, you'll help them. Now it's a little troublesome. Chu Yang was stunned. He suddenly shouted, Big sister, you're not just a little troublesome, you're in big trouble. If I really told them that, I'm sure I'll be killed immediately. I'm going to faint. Big sister, you actually let the husband and wife do that right under my nose, and you even want me to use the heavenly level technique to help? Chu Yang's face was full of black lines. He said speechlessly, Big sister, what are you thinking? Zi Shiqing was also a little embarrassed. Realizing her mistake, she blushed and said, I didn't think so much at that time. Chu Yang was speechless. He stood up and turned around. Then he said, you still can't think of this? Oh, my big sister Zi, if you put yourself in their shoes, if we were to do it in front of others. Shut up. Papa. Puff, 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 puff. Chu Yang hadn't even finished speaking when he was slapped twice in the face. Then, his lower abdomen was kicked a dozen times in quick succession. His buttocks flew out like a shooting star with a whooshing sound. With a loud bang, a hole was smashed into the wall 70 feet away. Then, it tumbled a few times before it fell to the ground with its arms and legs spread out. Zi Shiqing's angry and embarrassed voice could be heard. She seemed to be gritting her teeth. Chu Yang, you damned rogue. Chu Yang lay down with his arms and legs spread out. He looked at the sky speechlessly. He wanted to cry but had no tears. What happened to my hooligan? Am I being wronged? I swear to the heavens with my conscience as my witness, it was really just an example. I really didn't mean anything else. Just as he was about to get up from the ground, he smelled a delicate fragrance. He opened his eyes and saw Wu Qianshan standing right in front of him. Why are you here? Chu Yang got up from the ground awkwardly and patted the dust off his body. I thought, these few days you've been treating my injuries, so I came to see where you're staying. Wu Qianshan smiled and looked at him curiously. What happened to you? When I just arrived, I saw you rushing out like a cannonball. What's so urgent that you didn't even jump over the wall, but directly rushed out from the wall? And your buttocks were facing forward. Chu Yang grinned awkwardly. You saw it all? I saw it all. Minister Chu, don't tell me you were kicked out by someone? Wu Qianshan playfully blinked her eyes. She playfully looked at the clear and petite footprint on Chu Yang's chest. She smiled faintly. I didn't expect our all-powerful Minister Chu to have such a side to him. Chu Yang's face was full of black lines. He spread out his hands and said, it's my bad mouth that angered the beauty. Angered the beauty? Wu Qianshan's eyes flashed with a strange light. She said, don't tell me that one of your sweethearts is inside? She walked in as she said, this I want to see for myself. Chu Yang wanted to stop her in a hurry. He said anxiously, no, this. Wu Qianshan reached out and pushed him away gently. She smiled and said, what are you afraid of? I'm a married woman now. Don't tell me I'll eat your sweetheart up? Chu Yang was tongue-tied. Wu Qianshan had already pushed open the door and walked in. Chu Yang had no choice but to follow behind Wu Qianshan into the orchard palace. He thought to himself, what's wrong with this? I'm not afraid of crooked shadows. There are two women inside. One is my sister and the other has nothing to do with me. There are no emotional entanglements. It's fortunate that there aren't any. Otherwise, I'm still far from being able to beat her. How am I going to spend my days? Wouldn't that mean that even the right to sleep with her would have to depend on her mood? Fuck. That's impossible. Moreover, Wu Qianshan is now the Empress of Iron Cloud. No matter what, she can't control me. Even though he said this, Chu Yang still felt that something was very wrong in his heart. Even he himself didn't know where this feeling of uneasiness came from. The environment of your orchard palace is really not bad. Although it's not as central as the Jianghu building where I live in terms of elegance, it's much better. Wu Qianshan was full of praise for the layout of the orchard palace as she walked. Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat. He thought of Diwu Qingrou's fragrance when he first arrived. He couldn't help but be startled. He said, could it be that Diwu Qingrou used some tricks to get this place for me? But why? These few days Wu Qianshan was extremely comfortable. Every day Chu Yang would go to treat her injuries. To Wu Qianshan, being able to see each other every day was already an infinite satisfaction and happiness. Although Chu Yang still misunderstood, Wu Qianshan already knew that there was only a thin layer of window paper left. It would be broken with a poke. Once Chu Yang knew the truth with his temper, he would definitely not let her down. Therefore she was very happy during this period of time. She even had some expectations. After Chu Yang left, she didn't go out. She stayed in the Jianghu building to cultivate. Moreover, the two masters Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro didn't alert the Zhuge clan. They only took advantage of their disciple and stayed in the Jianghu building to cultivate in seclusion. In the Moon Breeze couple, Yu Lingxue was the leader. Therefore he was also under a lot of pressure. Since the battle with Zi Sheqing, he basically cultivated in seclusion every day to cultivate in the new realm. Chu Yang went a few times but didn't see him even once. This day, when Feng Yuro and Yu Lingxue went out to welcome the Dharma Supreme, it was actually a form of battle. According to Yu Lingxue's intention, if they were to fight, they would fight vigorously and vigorously. Whoever won or lost, lived or died, there would be no complaints. Wu Qianshan didn't think much of this. Since they were enemies, why did they have to be so obvious? You can be open to others, but others may not be open to you. She tried to persuade him, but Yu Lingxue was stubborn. How could he listen to her? He actually went out directly. Wu Qianshan had no choice but to look for Chu Yang to discuss. Every time she reached a point where she couldn't do anything, Wu Qianshan would feel a sense of reliance. If Chu Yang was by her side, he would definitely have a solution. Moreover, Wu Qianshan was also very helpless. Some solutions could be used by Chu Yang, but she couldn't. The difference between a man and a woman was actually expressed in every aspect. Therefore she did what she thought. After her master left, she went straight to the orchard palace. Who would have thought that she would coincidentally see her omnipotent hero being kicked out by someone? Looking at the shoe print on her chest, she was obviously very petite. Wu Qianshan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Such violence. She suddenly felt a little uneasy. This woman was obviously very important to Chu Yang. She had never seen anyone treat Chu Yang like this, but Chu Yang didn't care at all. Looking at it this way, this woman was definitely the one Chu Yang loved the most. She was also the biggest obstacle in her future. Moreover, she was also going to be a sister who would accompany her for the rest of her life. Thinking of this, Wu Qianshan felt very shy, a little fearful and a little indignant. With such a bad temper, how would they get along in the future? No matter what, the man was the head of the family. How could he be kicked around by a woman? Therefore, no matter what, Wu Qianshan had to meet this woman today. This was a matter of life and marriage. She couldn't be careless. It was better to have a good relationship in advance than to have an awkward relationship in the future. Wu Qianshan blushed and her heart thumped wildly. She actually had the feeling of an ugly daughter-in-law is about to meet her parents-in-law. Even when Chu Yang was beside her, she didn't hear what he said clearly. She dizzily stepped into the orchard palace. Just as she entered, she heard a voice angrily scolding, Chu Yang. Stinky hooligan. Stinky hooligan. Chu Yang. Wu Qianshan was stunned and turned to look at Chu Yang. Chu Yang rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. He spread his hands and said helplessly, actually, it's just a misunderstanding. When did I act like a hooligan? You know me too. I've always been upright, pure and noble. I don't even know how to act like a hooligan. Wu Qianshan wrinkled her nose and snorted. She said, you don't know? Chu Yang said seriously, I really don't know. Why don't you teach me? Wu Qianshan blushed and rolled her eyes at him. She scolded, I didn't scold you wrongly, stinky hooligan. Chapter 10:10. Chuyang was really helpless now. I really don't know how to be a hooligan. I'm definitely not bragging about this. Usually, it's the women who are hooligan to me and I'm always cold towards them. He was truly full of righteousness, and his sleeves were clean like the wind. When we were in the lower three heavens, you and I went to many banquets and occasions and we've met before. When have I ever been a hooligan to anyone? Why are you turning your back on me now? Wu Qianshan snorted and asked in a low voice. What did you do? How did you make this sister so angry? Isn't it because of you? Chuyang wanted to say, isn't it because of your master? But when the words were at the tip of his tongue, he suddenly stopped and became speechless. How could he say this out loud? Should he say, because of your master's infertility? If he really said this, what would Wu Qianshan think? He could only shut his mouth awkwardly. However, this sentence had a different meaning in Wu Qianshan's ears. Isn't it because of you? Because of me? Why is it because of me? Could it be? Wu Qianshan instantly became extremely shy. She rolled her eyes at him and scolded in a low voice, Hooligan! Chuyang was speechless. Looks like I can't take off this hooligan hat today. While they were talking, the two had already reached the door. Zi Sheqing naturally had already sensed that there were guests. She lifted the door curtain and came out. When she lifted the door curtain, one inside the door and the other outside the door, the two of them were stunned. Both Wu Qianshan and Zi Sheqing did not expect that the person standing in front of them would be such a beauty. Zi Sheqing was dressed in white today like snow and frost. Standing in the door, she was like 1,000 years of ice and snow, lonely and cold. Wu Qianshan was still dressed in black, but she looked simple and elegant, with an inexplicable faint temperament, like a deep valley orchid blooming alone. Fragrant alone. 1,000 years of ice and snow, even after 1,000 years, even after going through the vicissitudes of life, was still lonely and cold. A deep valley orchid, no matter if there was someone or not, was still blooming alone and fragrant alone. Facing each other, the two of them had the same thought. There's actually such a beauty in the world. Chuyang, who was at the side, was also stunned. When the two peerless beauties stood together like this, the visual impact on men was absolutely unparalleled. Actually, there were still some differences between the two. Zi Sheqing's face was flawless, exquisite and graceful, unattainable, but with a kind of illusory indifference. There was only one word to describe Zi Sheqing. Perfect. It was perfect. The most beautiful eyes, the most beautiful eyebrows, the most beautiful face shape, the most beautiful lips, the most beautiful ears, the most beautiful skin, the most beautiful hair. All gathered on one person. It was no exaggeration to say that this kind of beauty did not belong to the human world. Compared to Zi Sheqing, Wu Qianshan's looks were not as perfect. However, Wu Qianshan's beauty was real. Moreover, there was a kind of extreme toughness hidden within an extreme softness. She was extremely cold, yet she could make people feel warm. It made people feel that this woman needed protection the moment they saw her, but when they took a closer look, they realized that she didn't need it. It was a beauty of extreme contradiction. On Wu Qianshan's body, it was completely unified. If she were to be described as a flower, Zi Sheqing would be like a snow lotus in the ice and snow at the end of the vast ocean, proud and arrogant. On the other hand, Wu Qianshan would be like a pure white orchid on the cliff of a quiet valley, leaving the world alone with its fragrance, pure and beautiful. This is. Zi Sheqing looked at Wu Qianshan silently for a while and asked Chuyang. Well, let me introduce you. This is Miss Zi. She is slightly older than us, you can call her Big Sister Zi. Chuyang introduced attentively, this is my senior sister, Wu Qianshan. I've mentioned her to you before. Zi Sheqing replied with an "oh," and smiled, like 100 flowers blooming together. Miss Wu is really a rare guest. Please come in. She turned and asked Chuyang, what do you mean? You mean, I'm very old? Chuyang was sweating profusely. He finally remembered something. Women. Especially for beautiful women, age was their biggest taboo. If one said that she was old, she would automatically think of the word, old. If one said that she was young, she would automatically think of the word, not mature enough, not charming enough. Chuyang sighed in his heart. Being a man is not easy. I really don't know how those men with multiple wives and concubines live. Big Sister Zi. Wu Qianshan smiled slightly with a hint of flattery and humility, but also appropriately showed a neither servile nor overbearing attitude. She smiled gently and said, let's not lower ourselves to his level. Well, the word, we, immediately pulled the relationship between the two of them closer, and excluded Chuyang from the equation. Zi Sheqing blinked and smiled. Sister, you're right. Come, please come in, I'll make you some tea. She held Wu Qianshan's arm and walked intimately into the room. Chuyang was a little stunned. He really didn't expect that women were more straightforward than men in making friends. It was only the first time they met and they were already so intimate? Wu Qianshan said, "How would I dare to trouble big sister Z? Just tell me where to put it, I'll do it myself." She looked at Zi Xiecheng and actually couldn't see through her cultivation. She couldn't help but be shocked. "Looks like this sister is an expert." Zi Xiecheng said, "Sister, you're really talented. You're already a third-grade martial saint. It's really incredible to have such cultivation at such a young age." Wu Qianshan smiled and said, "Big sister, you're even more brilliant. I can't even see through you." The two of them talked intimately across the table. But in the end it was totally irrelevant. Shrouded by clouds and mist, one smiled gently while the other smiled amiably. But both of them knew that this wasn't the case. Chuyang looked at them with a headache. Wu Qianshan thought, no wonder Chuyang is so devoted to her and can't forget her. She's indeed a peerless beauty. In comparison, I'm really a little inferior. I wonder how she's looking at me now? Zi Xiecheng thought, this little Anai seems to be infatuated with Chuyang. One look and I can tell that she's infatuated with him. Looking at this etiquette, it seems like she's treating me as Chuyang's legal wife. Is she here as a concubine to show weakness? Oh, little Anai, you're mistaken. I won't expose you. Let's see what little Anai has to say first. Miss Wu, there must be something important for you to come here. Shall I leave for a while? Zi Xiecheng smiled reservedly. No need, no need. Sister, you've misunderstood. Wu Qianshan hurriedly said, it's just that there's something that I can't make up my mind on. Sister, you're very meticulous. You can help me come up with ideas here. Think of something. Zi Xiecheng said, oh? Chuyang also perked up. It's like this. Wu Qianshan perked up and looked at Chuyang meaningfully. She said, my two teachers were originally law enforcement officers. But now that the time of 10,000 years is up, the Tribulation Sword Master is about to appear. So, my two teachers and the Dharma Supreme had a conflict. Both of them had different paths and went their separate ways. Now they're already sworn enemies. Chuyang and Zi Xiecheng couldn't help but perk up their ears. They knew that what Wu Qianshan said today might be the secrets that the two of them didn't know and hadn't come into contact with. Why? Chuyang asked, even though our paths are different, how can our 10,000 years of friendship be erased just like that? Wu Qianshan explained, it's like this. The law enforcement officers are an organization passed down by the people who founded the heavens. The mission of the law enforcement officers is to ensure the peace and stability of the heavens, to punish evil and promote good, and to protect the world. Moreover, there's an unwritten rule. Under normal circumstances, the law enforcement officers can only stand on one side. But if the Tribulation Sword Master is at a disadvantage in a battle with a big clan, the law enforcement officers must help the Tribulation Sword Master. On the other hand, if the Tribulation Sword Master is at an advantage, the law enforcement officers can just sit back and watch the big clan perish. For 10,000 years, when the first 8 Tribulation Sword Masters appeared, the law enforcement officers strictly followed this rule. They would always help the Tribulation Sword Master when he was in a difficult situation. Wu Qianshan's gaze was a little complicated. I see. Chuyang suddenly understood. It said that the current Dharma Supreme is the law enforcement master of the law enforcement officers from 13,000 years ago. Wu Qianshan said, when the previous Dharma Supreme reached the end of his life, he passed the position of Dharma Supreme to this Dharma Supreme and left the world at ease. Wu Qianshan emphasized the words left the world at ease, as if she was hinting at something. Or rather, she herself was also suspecting something. Left the world at ease, left the world at ease. Chuyang slowly chewed on the words left the world at ease, the more he thought about it. He raised his eyebrows and said, so, at least when this Dharma Supreme first took over the position of Dharma Supreme, he was resolutely supporting the Tribulation Sword Master. It was only later on that there were other changes? Wu Qianshan nodded and said, after the Dharma Supreme took over, he was more capable and more prestigious than the previous Dharma Supremes. Therefore, my teacher was also willing to support him. But just some time ago, when the news of the Tribulation Sword Master's birth came out, the Dharma Supreme made the decision to go against the Tribulation Sword Master. My teacher couldn't stand such capriciousness. Moreover, their lifelong belief was to continue the responsibility of the law enforcement officers. My teacher felt that the Dharma Supreme's actions had gone against the original intention of the law enforcement officers. He was resolutely against it. If this continued, the Tribulation Sword Master of this generation would have no chance at all. Therefore, my teacher decisively left the law enforcement officers and chose another path. And this path was to become the enemy of the Dharma Supreme. Because if the Tribulation Sword Master were to die, then the entire heavenly continent would collapse again. This is very possible. Wu Qianqian said. So there's such a reason. Chu Yang let out a long sigh of relief. Zi Sheqing's heart skipped a beat. She asked, "Your teachers are the Moon Breeze Supreme Martial Artists?" Wu Qianqian nodded and said, "Yes." Zi Sheqing's eyes narrowed. She said, "But you obviously didn't cultivate the Moon Breeze as one technique?" Wu Qianqian looked at her with admiration and said, "Sister's eyes are really sharp. You can even see this." She paused and said with a red face, "But although the Moon Breeze as one technique is powerful, it requires two people to cultivate it together." "And I," Zi Sheqing said, "isn't that simple? You can just cultivate it with Chu Yang. Moreover, if you cultivate it with Chu Yang, there will be endless benefits. Many problems can be easily solved." Wu Qianqian instantly blushed. Chapter 10:11. Endless benefits? Chu Yang asked in astonishment. "That's right." Zi Sheqing became serious and said, "Moon Breeze is one among all the dual cultivation techniques that I have seen, it is undoubtedly the best." Wu Qianqian didn't think much of this, but Chu Yang was deeply moved. All the techniques that Zi Sheqing had seen? How many were there? But Moon Breeze as one was ranked first? The Moon Breeze as one heart technique clearly has room for further development. Zi Sheqing said, "It doesn't seem very powerful now, but for all the dual cultivation techniques in the past, because of the fact that one of the couple uses the yin to supplement the yang or the yang to supplement the yin, one of the couple will definitely be in a weaker position and can't progress together. But the Moon Breeze couple is completely balanced. The most important point is, when this technique is cultivated, one can easily come into contact with the void of the great Tao." Zi Sheqing said, "This is the most precious part." She looked up at Chu Yang and said, "Your Tao state is different from theirs. Yours is heaven and earth, but theirs is yin and yang. Do you understand if I put it this way?" "I understand." Chu Yang nodded. "And if the two of you cultivate together due to your special characteristics and techniques, you don't have to worry about having children." Zi Sheqing said, "In this way to solve that problem, it can also promote." Zi Sheqing's words were vague, but Chu Yang understood. He frowned and pondered silently. Wu Qianqian listened at the side, but she didn't quite understand. In this way, in the final stage, Feng Yuro and Yu Lingxue will be a very easy couple. Zi Sheqing said, "When the sky collapses and the void shatters, because others bear the heavenly power alone, but they share the burden with two people, and because of their techniques, the two of them become one. Won't it be easy to not cause the heavenly power to double?" Chu Yang said, "I see. So, they will be like Qinfeng and Lu Yun. As long as they don't die prematurely, they will become another pair of immortal couple." Zi Sheqing said lightly. Chu Yang jumped up from the chair as if he was hit on the head. He said, "Qinfeng and Lu Yun are a couple? A man and a woman? Not two men?" Zi Sheqing did not know whether to laugh or cry. "What you said is really ridiculous. Can two men become husband and wife?" Chu Yang sat down in a daze. The eternal legend of the Chongtian continent, Qinfeng and Lu Yun. They were actually a couple? Why didn't anyone know about this? Everyone knew that Qinfeng and Lu Yun were rivals, but who knew that they were husband and wife? Beside him was Wu Qianqian. His face was also filled with shock. It was because of the explosive news and Zi Sheqing's profound knowledge. Now she finally realized that Zi Sheqing was not an ordinary person. Moreover, Wu Qianqian had a vague feeling that when Sister Zi mentioned her master, she seemed to be talking about a junior. Furthermore, even Qinfeng and Lu Yun did not seem to be in her eyes. Thinking of this, Wu Qianqian felt even more horrified. Could it be that she wasn't Chu Yang's sweetheart? Wu Qianqian lowered her head. No matter how thick-skinned Wu Qianqian was, she couldn't take it anymore. "Think about it carefully." Zi Sheqing looked at Chu Yang meaningfully. Chu Yang nodded solemnly. "Sister Wu, please continue," Zi Sheqing said. Wu Qianqian blushed and calmed the waves in her heart. She said, "Just this morning the Dharma Supreme is about to reach Tinji City. My two masters don't want to be enemies with others secretly. They have already rushed over to welcome the Dharma Supreme and at the same time, to issue a letter of challenge." "Issue a letter of challenge?" Chu Yang asked speechlessly. "Yes." Wu Qianqian frowned and said, "They said that they want an open and above-board battle." "An open and above-board battle?" Chu Yang was even more speechless. He couldn't help but say, "These two masters of yours are really a little too extreme. For such a matter, who would want to have an open and above-board battle with them? There are only two of them. The other party is the law enforcement officer of the entire Chongtian, with all the resources of a big clan that has ruled the Chongtian for tens of thousands of years. How can they have an open and above-board battle? This is what I'm worried about. Wu Qianqian sighed. If it's a truly fair battle, there won't be any tricks. We won't have to worry about anything. Life and death, victory and defeat, all the more we won't complain. But the problem is that the other party will definitely not be willing to have an open and above-board battle with them. Chu Yang frowned and said, "That's right. But Master Yu thinks that there is no common ground for such a matter. Besides, both parties have known each other for tens of thousands of years. It's not right to fight without a declaration." Wu Qianqian smiled bitterly. "My Master Yu is a very upright person." Chu Yang smiled and said, "I can see that. People like you Lingxue should be the kind of people who pursue perfection in their moral integrity and conduct. They would do what they say and be above board. No matter what they do, they would have a clear conscience. Such a person's character was a natural-born hero. He would rather break than bend and die than submit. No matter what, he would never give up on his beliefs and principles. Such a person was admirable but also pedantic. Pedantic and hateful but also pedantic and adorable. I'm worried that the two of them will be schemed against by the Dharma Supreme and the others in the future battle." Wu Qianqian frowned and said worriedly, "That's why I'm here to discuss with you in advance. Don't worry, don't doubt, they will definitely be schemed against." Chu Yang said with certainty, "I'm afraid that even now the other party is already scheming against them." He laughed bitterly. Faced with such a firm and principled enemy, if they didn't scheme against them, they would be fools. Yes. On this point, Wu Qianqian and Chu Yang absolutely had the same view. But what should they do about such a matter? Remind them? They were afraid that it would be useless. These two people had lived like this for tens of thousands of years. How could it be easy for them to change? I've already reminded them. Moreover, I've also analyzed the worst-case scenario for them. But the two masters are very stubborn. Wu Qianqian saw that Chu Yang was looking at her. She knew what he wanted to ask. So she spoke bluntly. It's a very simple matter. But to do it and change their views is as difficult as ascending to heaven. Chu Yang frowned and said, "If they don't suffer a little, I'm afraid they won't change." That's right. In the current situation, we definitely can't let them suffer. Because once they suffer, they will be consigned to eternal damnation. Wu Qianqian frowned and sighed. As long as the Dharma Supreme makes a move, then we have absolute confidence in killing them. That's why we let them suffer first before we try to persuade them. It won't work. Chu Yang frowned, stood up and paced slowly. This is really the sorrow of good people. Chu Yang sighed. Good people were all like this. They would rather be betrayed than be betrayed. They would always have to suffer a loss before they would realize that not all sincere efforts will be exchanged for sincere returns. At that time they would slowly become more scheming. But at that time, wasn't that the sorrow of life? What you mean is, if there's really a trap, then let them fall into a dangerous situation first and let them understand how despicable the other party is and how foolish and pedantic they are. In future operations we will abandon such foolish methods? Zi Sheqing frowned and asked. Yes. Chu Yang looked deeply at Zi Sheqing. This matter needs to be considered at length. Zi Sheqing nodded her head in understanding. Chu Yang faintly felt that Wu Qianqian seemed to have a faint suspicion of his identity, but it was still far from being certain. Although Chu Yang still didn't know why Wu Qianqian had such suspicions, he would definitely not reveal his identity now. This was also a form of protection for Wu Qianqian. Chu Yang, what do you think we should do? Wu Qianqian asked helplessly. Teacher is very good to me. I don't want anything to happen to them. This matter can't be rushed now, right? Chu Yang said. It's already very close. Wu Qianqian said, the medicine banquet selection will be held 3 days later. The selection will probably take 10 days. After 10 days there will be half a month of rest. After that it will be the semifinals. The semifinals will take 10 days. After that, there will be another rest to ensure that all the pharmacists who pass the semifinals will enter the finals in a perfect state of mind. During this process, in the end, the people of the Medicine Valley and the great supreme martial artists will use their mental strength to create a kind of aura. In this aura the pharmacists will walk step by step. The final winner will gather the fate energy of all the top pharmacists in the entire heavenly realm. Wu Qianqian said, under such circumstances the champion pharmacist will personally refine the heaven-nourishing jade. And this process will mainly use mental strength and fate energy to refine the medicine. In the refining area, under the joint efforts of dozens of supreme martial artists, they will break open the great Tao void and direct the power of the heavenly way to infuse it with fate energy. Only then will the heaven-nourishing jade be formed. Then, it will be the heaven-nourishing jade. During this process, my two masters will definitely make a move to destroy it. And I'm afraid it will be the most crucial time for the heaven-nourishing jade. Wu Qianqian said, at the very most there will be less than 3 months until the heaven-nourishing jade. I see. Chu Yang took a deep breath and his eyes flashed. Until now he had truly understood the so-called medicine banquet's procedures. But what he didn't expect was that he actually understood it from Wu Qianqian. Using mental strength to create an aura, gathering all the fate energy into the champion. And refining the heaven-nourishing jade actually used fate energy to refine medicine. But he didn't know how to refine medicine with fate energy. Chu Yang frowned and pondered. The sword spirit in the tribulation space was still in seclusion and didn't care about the outside world. This couldn't give him an answer. And, direct the power of the heavenly way to infuse it. Make the heaven-nourishing jade. It was so complicated. Chu Yang suddenly felt a little greedy for this direct power of the heavenly way to infuse it. The benefits of this should be quite great, right? To be continued. Chapter 10-12. Such an event. If a supreme martial artist is free, he can hold it anytime. Why must it be held once every 1,000 years? Zi Shiqing asked. It must be because the amount of fate energy needed to refine the heaven-nourishing jade can only be accumulated in at least 1,000 years, Chu Yang answered softly. When Zi Shiqing asked this question, she asked it deliberately. And when Chu Yang answered, it was also a deliberate answer. But this question and answer resolved the doubts in both of their hearts, turning it into affirmation. Both of them nodded at the same time. Wu Qianqian was very worried. She also knew that the best way was to let the Moon Breeze couple see the Dharma Supreme's despicableness first and then wake up from their stupor. But, once that happened, the Moon Breeze couple would first be in danger. They would have to face the siege of at least 40 supreme martial artists. And there was also the Dharma Supreme, an unfathomable master who stood at the peak. And on her side, there was no such person who could turn the tide at the critical moment. In Wu Qianqian's mind, there were only 2 such candidates, Ning Tianya and Bulu Qing. And only these 2 people could save the Moon Breeze couple at that time. But they would have to pay a certain price. Let me think about it carefully. There may be other ways to solve this matter, Chu Yang consoled. He had already decided to do it. Not only did he have to do it, but he had to do it beautifully. On the side of Chu Yang, the Calamity Sword Master, there was a serious lack of masters. On the surface, Chu Yang seemed to be taking advantage of the big clans at every step he took. He was advancing step by step and was toying with the big clans in the palm of his hand. However, this was built on the basis that his identity hadn't been exposed. The real comparison of strength was really pitiful. Chu Yang couldn't use the power of the Chu clan for his own use now. Otherwise it would be gone in a flash. At the very most, the only ones who could be considered as masters around him were Wei Wuyin, Wan Renjie, Cheng Duiying and Bao Buhuan. And these 4 people were only considered as masters in comparison. And they weren't in place yet. Besides, there was only Nangong Shifeng in the intelligence agency who was famous for his foul mouth. Zi Shiqing's Tao state power would be full at any time. Then she would leave. Moreover, Chu Yang was unwilling to accept Zi Shiqing's suggestion to wipe out the big clans. In this way, the ones with the highest battle power on Chu Yang's side were Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro, who still didn't know that he was the Tribulation Sword Master. If Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro were to be sacrificed under such circumstances, the loss would be so great that Chu Yang simply couldn't bear it. Therefore, Chu Yang had to protect these 2 people no matter what. That's good. Wu Qianqian said confidently, I'll leave this matter to you. Wu Qianqian had a natural trust in Chu Yang. It seemed that as long as Chu Yang said, I'll do it, Wu Qianqian would be completely at ease. In her eyes, there was nothing in this world that could stump Chu Yang. After that, Wu Qianqian and Zi Shiqing had a long and affectionate conversation before they left reluctantly. Chu Lur had been in a deep sleep for the past few days. Ever since Zi Shiqing changed her body constitution, the little girl had basically been in a daze for the past few days. She was just like the saying, sleep after eating, eat after waking up, and nothing else happened. But this was a normal phenomenon, and it was because Chu Lur's body was too weak, so Chu Yang and Zi Shiqing weren't too worried. She would be fine after she got used to it after sleeping for a while. The next 2 days were calm and tranquil. Nangong Shifeng, who used to report every 3 days, didn't come, because there were obviously fewer people coming these few days. Those who were supposed to come had all arrived. The information of all the people that Nangong Shifeng gathered had already piled up 3 feet in front of Chu Yang. It was very detailed. Sometimes Chu Yang even suspected, what method did Nangong Shifeng use to get all this information? One must know that some of the information could even be said to be top secret. Chu Yang only found out about this question when he asked Nangong Shifeng once. It turned out that this guy was only in charge of finding out the names of people, and then bringing the names to a secret place in Tianji City called Omniscient News Pavilion. He only needed to fork out purple crystals to get the information of these people, and everything would be in his hands. No one knew who opened this Omniscient News Pavilion. It was extremely mysterious, only selling information, and the price wasn't low. It had a good reputation, as if there wasn't any information in this world that he didn't know. Chu Yang was surprised and also a little amused that there was such a thing. So, Chu Yang gave Nangong Shifeng another sum of purple crystals to buy information. He couldn't possibly let Nangong Shifeng pay for it with his own money. In the past few days, Lan Changa secretly found Chu Yang, gave him a packet of medicine, and asked him to find an opportunity to put it in Wu Qianshan's medicine. This gave Chu Yang a clear feeling that Lan Changa was going to take action. Other than that, there was no movement from the Zhuge clan, Yi clan, and the other big clans. Since the arrival of the Dharma Supreme, the whole Tianji city became clear. Walking around the whole city, there weren't many people scolding people, not to mention fighting. Everyone from the Zhuge family heaved a sigh of relief when they saw how quiet the situation was. But at the same time, they knew that none of the big clans were easy to deal with. The silence during this period of time definitely didn't mean that they had given up. So, the security in the dark became even tighter. This evening, from the city gate of Tianji City, a person walked in. This person was dressed in a long green robe, and his face was gentle. Even though he was walking normally, he revealed an indescribable free and easy feeling. Regardless of whether it was his face, temperament, or even his figure, he gave people a feeling of being at ease, as if nothing would bother him. This kind of free and easy feeling even included life and death. Absolutely detached from worldly affairs. Meng Chaoran finally arrived at Tianji City at a moderate pace. When the sky had just darkened, 3 figures flew over from afar. This time I have really used too much time for my closed-door training. I wonder if fourth brother is anxious from waiting. I really didn't expect that the breakthrough this time would be so difficult, even though our cultivation had already reached it first and had already surpassed it, said the person in front. Yes, even now we only know half of it. Looks like we can only fully master it through the baptism of battle. Fourth brother is in this city, I believe he must be anxiously waiting for us, said another person. Cough cough, big senior brother and second senior brother are right, said another person in agreement. The 3 of them swept across the land like shooting stars, entered the city gate and disappeared into the crowd. After a while, when the moon rose diagonally in the sky, another person rushed over from afar. This person was skinny and his face was haggard, just like a walking corpse. His face was covered with horrifying scars. He had a sheathed sword, so ordinary that it seemed like it would disappear in the wind at any time. It was unremarkable, but he didn't carry it on his back, nor did it hang at his waist. Instead, he just carried it with his right hand. From his skeleton, one could tell that this person was originally very burly. One really didn't know what could cause a person to become so skinny in such a short period of time. He still came. This person looked at the Tianji City gate numbly and sighed. I have never owed anyone anything in my life. Little brother has done me a great favor. Now that he is going to stand out in the medicine banquet, how can I not help him? After little brother is done here, I will go to the ends of the earth to hunt down that evil thief, to avenge my wife and child, to avenge myself. On this person's horrifying face, a pair of eyes flashed with extreme hatred as he gritted his teeth. Under his agitation, his scarred face became even more twisted and horrifying. His eyes flashed and he took a few deep breaths. Then he silently entered Tianji City step by step. The moon was high in the sky. Heaven and earth were already in silence. From afar, another 3 figures flew over. Among the 3 people, one was burly. Even though one couldn't see his face clearly in the dark, his figure still made one feel that he was as tall as a mountain. Every step he took, it was as if a mountain was moving. Such majesty. This was a natural aura. Only natural heroes could bring out such a majestic aura unconsciously. An insufferably arrogant spirit. The person beside him had a slender figure and fluttering hair. She should be a girl. On his left, another person's posture was rather strange. As he walked, he looked like a big monkey jumping forward, but also like a bird flying clumsily. We are finally here. In front of everyone, that person stood still and laughed. He said, "This journey is really fucking satisfying. The awe-inspiring power of our Hall of 4 and 3 has truly started to spread throughout the world from this journey." At the side, that skinny and shriveled big monkey-like young man rolled his eyes and said, "What's there to be unhappy about? Almost all the people we met along the way were beaten down by you. Too barbaric. No matter what, you should let me practice, but you almost took them all by yourself." That person smiled and said, "Didn't you practice those few times when we met high-level martial saints? What's there to lose?" Fourth brother Dong. "I will fight it out with you." That young man cried out in grief and indignation. That was purely torture. What is called practice? I say, fourth brother Dong, you clearly know that you can't afford to offend them, but you still went up to provoke them. You caused me to be beaten to death 3 times along the way. Do you still have a conscience? Anyway, you can't be beaten to death. The girl at the side who had been silent all this while smiled gently and said, "What does it matter how many times you are beaten to death? After they leave, we will take your corpse away. After a while, you will come back to life and your strength will improve. Fourth brother, we are helping you cultivate." That skinny and shriveled young man wanted to cry but had no tears. "Making me die again and again. Helping me cultivate like this. I have seen through the two of you. When I see boss, I will definitely complain about you." That burly young man laughed and said, "Fourth brother, let's make a bet. Do you think boss will believe what the two of us say, or will he believe you, a guy who has always been famous for being a petty thief and has a glib tongue?" That young man instantly became dejected. He looked up to the sky and sighed. "I have really met the wrong person. Don't talk nonsense, let's go in. Let's see if we can find someone to fight again tonight. I feel like I am going to break through again." The burly young man laughed and the 3 of them entered the city gate at the same time. Chapter 10:13. Late at night, a bright moon hung in the sky. Diwu Qingrou's small courtyard was surrounded by the supreme martial artist's divine senses. "Is everything ready?" Diwu Qingrou asked softly. In front of him, the elder nodded. "Yes. Yes, tomorrow is the start of the medicine banquet." Diwu Qingrou's eyes were deep. "How are the reactions of the big clans?" The elder laughed softly. "Other than the local Zhuge clan, Qin clan and Li clan, the other 7 clans are all eager to make a move. They are very interested in the news of the divine clan elder." "That's good." Diwu Qingrou smiled softly and said, "It's not that the Qin clan is completely uninterested. They are forced by the situation and have no choice but to keep a low profile. Because they have already lost too many men to the Moon Breeze couple. Therefore they already feel that they can't afford to lose. But once things get out of hand, the Qin clan will naturally make a move. Even if they don't make a move, there will be others who will find trouble with them." Diwu Qingrou smiled softly. "And the Li clan is in a precarious situation now. Even if they don't make a move, others won't let them off. So, the Li clan will also make a move." The elder said, "Yes, the situation is already set. The stage has already been set up. We are only waiting for someone to perform on the stage." Diwu Qingrou smiled. "That's right. My main job is only to set up this stage. We don't need to care about other things. We only need to wait quietly." "Just setting up the stage and not performing?" The old man was startled. He couldn't help but frown and remind her, "Qingrou, you're wrong. Although we've already lured them in, things still need a fuse. Even if it's going to become a prairie fire in the end, it still needs a spark to ignite it." "That's right. However, this was just a spark. It must not be ignited from our hands. If we were to ignite it, it would only burn the Diwu clan into pieces first. Then, even if the plan succeeds, it would be useless and would only benefit others." There was a mysterious smile on Diwu Qingrou's face. "I don't understand. Who can replace us?" That elder racked his brains. "If I didn't calculate wrongly, that person. It should have been prepared long ago. What he needs now is for us to finish setting up the stage, that's all." Diwu Qingrou's eyes flashed. "As long as the news of us setting up the stage is spread out. If the flames of war were to rise continuously, the large clans would be reduced to a nest of pigs in a short period of time." The old man blinked his eyes in confusion, not knowing what he was talking about. "There was an alliance? But I've always been by Qingrou's side, so how come I didn't notice? Great-granduncle, if I remember correctly, in another 10 days I'll be back. At the beginning of the 12th lunar month, which is the day of the medicine banquet preliminaries, it should be Big Brother's birthday." Diwu Qingrou smiled mysteriously. "Yes, it's hard for you to remember this." The old man chuckled. "Big Brother is almost 10 years old this year, but he hasn't had a proper birthday celebration yet. Wu Qingro sighed and said, this time he has me, his younger brother, to celebrate for him. The old man was even more confused. We were just talking about serious business. Why did you suddenly change the topic to birthday noodles? Wasn't this change too sudden? Wu Qingro pondered and said, spread the news tomorrow that the Diwu clan has booked the entire Shuiyu restaurant for my big brother Diwu Qingquang's 10th birthday. What? The old man was stunned. I've lived for thousands of years. I haven't had such a grand birthday celebration. Your big brother is only 10 years old, and you're already having a birthday celebration? Also, Diwu Qingro will cover all the expenses for my big brother's 10th birthday this time. Diwu Qingro said in a heavy tone, this sentence must be passed out to show our brotherhood. You'll cover all? The old man was shocked. This is not a small amount. I can still afford this little amount of purple crystals. Diwu Qingro said casually, and this money is paid by the clan. Paid by the clan? The old man was confused. He was about to faint. Paid by the clan but in your name? Of course. Diwu Qingro said without any guilt. I'm completely dizzy. What's going on? The old man held his forehead with one hand and asked dizzily. And it must be a grand celebration. Diwu Qingro said, when the time comes. We'll invite an opera troupe to set up a stage for a performance. So, from tomorrow onwards we'll start setting up the stage. Set up a stage for a performance? So grand? The old man said dizzily. Of course. The 10th birthday celebration. Diwu Qingro waved his hand. This matter is settled. From tomorrow onwards, we'll start spreading the news and inviting guests and friends. When the time comes we'll watch the show at Shuiyu restaurant. Seeing that the old man still wanted to ask questions, Diwu Qingro frowned and sighed deeply. You don't need to ask for the reason. You just need to do as I say. Okay. The old man agreed in confusion. Don't forget that everything is funded by me. You must publicize this matter to the best of your ability. Diwu Qingro was still not at ease. So he warned again. Okay. The old man agreed and left. Diwu Qingro looked at his back and couldn't help but frown with a headache. He sighed and muttered, so tired. On the second day from early morning, Tianji City started to become chaotic. It was like a pot of porridge. As the sky brightened and the sun rose, it gradually became steaming hot. Chuyang ended his breathing and meditation and stood up. He didn't prepare much. He just took out a small package from the tribulation space, carried it and was about to leave. Zi Sheqing's voice came from next door. I won't accompany you today. Today is the most important day for Lur to be reborn. I'll stay here to protect her. Okay. Chuyang agreed. At this moment someone asked loudly, Brother Chu, are you ready? It was Han Xiaoran's voice. Yes. Chuyang agreed and walked out quickly. He opened the door of the orchard palace and saw Han Xiaoran in a neat black robe. He stood outside with his hands behind his back and nodded at him with a smile. Today is the first day of the medicine banquet. I'll bring you there. Let's enter the preliminaries. Han Xiaoran smiled. Chuyang laughed. Brother, the first round of preliminaries is a competition of heavenly treasures. There's nothing special about it. Are you ready? Han Xiaoran said, if you're not confident, I've specially brought a 5,000-year-old blood mushroom. It should be enough. I've already made my own preparations. Chuyang smiled faintly. Moreover, I've prepared a portion for you. Prepared a portion for me? Han Xiaoran widened his eyes strangely. I've got 2 scarlet fruits. One of them is to be used to enter the medicine banquet as a stepping stone. The other one, for you. Although this scarlet fruit can't cure you completely, it can make you feel more comfortable. Moreover, it can also last a little longer. Chuyang smiled slightly. Han Xiaoran shook his head disapprovingly. Brother, it's not that I want to nag at you, but you've underestimated the medicine banquet. There are tens of thousands of pharmacists gathered here, and these people actually dared to participate in the medicine banquet. Who doesn't have any rare goods? I'm afraid it's impossible to enter the medicine banquet with just 1 scarlet fruit. It's naturally impossible for ordinary scarlet fruits. But what about the black-blooded scarlet fruit? Chuyang smiled mysteriously and said, I got this scarlet fruit from the black blood forest. What? Black-blooded scarlet fruit? Han Xiaoran was stunned. The soil in the black blood forest was 100 times harder than outside. The value of the elixirs that grew there was definitely 100 times more than outside. And the black-blooded scarlet fruit was even more priceless. It was a typical heavenly treasure. And a top-grade one. An ordinary scarlet fruit needed at least 100 years to bloom and 50 years to mature. 150 years. But it was definitely not the case in the Black Blood Forest. That was to say, in the Black Blood Forest, this number was 100 times more. The scarlet fruit could only mature. That was to say, 15,000 years. But how could the 15,000 years in the Black Blood Forest be compared to the 15,000 years in the outside world? The difference was like heaven and earth. You got the black-blooded scarlet fruit? Han Xiaoran thought of Chu Yang's journey and suddenly had an idea. You didn't come from the Shao clan's special passage, but came from the Black Blood Forest? The Shao clan has a special passage? Chu Yang felt dizzy. Han Xiaoran was stunned. The two of them looked at each other and smiled bitterly. You're really audacious. You actually came out from the Black Blood Forest? Han Xiaoran shook his head and sighed. And you even got the black-blooded scarlet fruit. Your luck is really too good. Haha, Chu Yang smiled and said, and it's not an ordinary black-blooded scarlet fruit. It's a top-grade exquisite snow scarlet fruit. Han Xiaoran's eyes popped out. Exquisite snow scarlet fruit? Chu Yang smiled mischievously. He stretched out his hand from his bag and took out a purple crystal box. Then he threw it over. Old brother Han, this is something that took 15,000 years to grow. Quickly eat it. Han Xiaoran hurriedly caught it and was shocked. This is a heavenly treasure that only matured after 15,000 years. You're throwing it away just like that? Chu Yang said indifferently, what's the big deal? Once I throw it out, it's yours. It's not mine anymore. Even if it's broken, it's yours. Why can't I bear to? Han Xiaoran's mouth twitched a few times. He was a little angry, but there was nothing he could do. This scarlet fruit was born from the scarlet fruit tree that Chu Yang got from the Black Blood Forest. There were 30 of them in total. Chu Yang only took out 2 of them. What's there to feel bad about? When he got the scarlet fruit tree, it was only green in color. But after it entered the tribulation space, the sword spirit made use of the characteristics of the tribulation space to speed up the ripening of the fruits. Han Xiaoran felt a little bad and said, Brother, you're taking out such a heaven-defying treasure for this medicine banquet's preliminary selection. It's too extravagant and wasteful. Hee, I'm almost done making up for what I owe. I finally felt a little relieved. I didn't dare to ask for monthly votes to make up for the extra chapters. I'm almost done making up for the extra chapters so that I can ask for monthly votes. It's the 23rd today and I've already updated 10 chapters with close to 200,000 words. But many people are still complaining that the updates aren't good enough. Please understand me. Chapter 10:14. Of course, Chu Yang absolutely disagreed with what Han Xiaoran had said. It was definitely making a mountain out of a molehill to do such a thing at the 10th birthday celebration. However, with Diwu Qingru as the host, it was definitely extraordinary. As for what Han Xiaoran said about Diwu Qingru sucking up to him, Chu Yang would definitely not agree with that. Han Xiaoran had never heard of Diwu Qingru or didn't understand him. It was reasonable for him to say such words. However, if Chu Yang really thought so, then he would be an idiot. If Han Xiaoran knew how powerful Diwu Qingru was, he would probably not say such words even if he was beaten to death. There was a kind of person who, regardless of his level of martial arts, would be able to do well no matter where he was. No matter how big the world was, he would be able to do whatever he wanted. Diwu Qingru was undoubtedly such a person. A person like Diwu Qingru would definitely not suck up to others like this. Even if others sucked up to him like this, he would not agree. Chu Yang was also such a person. Therefore, Diwu Qingru understood Chu Yang just like how Chu Yang understood Diwu Qingru. So, what was the meaning of this? Hearing the shouts of the people of the Diwu clan still coming from all directions on the street, Chu Yang furrowed his brows and walked forward. A clear train of thought slowly formed in his mind. Is Diwu Qingru trying to send me a message? But what message is he trying to send? At the beginning of the 12th month, the 10th birthday celebration. Diwu Qingquang Diwu Qingru. Putting together a show. Diwu Qingru fully funding? Chu Yang pondered and made the first assumption. Let's assume that my previous guess was right. Then the Yi clan was instigated by Diwu Qingru to snatch the divine clan elder. Let's confirm this first. Then, as long as Diwu Qingru knew that I was here, he would definitely pay close attention to me. Therefore, Diwu Qingru must have known about my actions during this period of time through different channels. If so, he would be able to guess what I was doing. Therefore, Diwu Qingru would definitely cooperate fully. He would add fuel to the fire and even add 1 and 2 more to his original plan. Because Diwu Qingru knew that others might not be able to do it, but he, Chu Yang, would definitely be able to do it. Therefore there was this scene today. This scene was telling me, I've already planned everything. I'm just waiting for you to go on stage to perform. At the beginning of December. It should be before the beginning of the 12th lunar month, when everything was ready, and they were only waiting for the spark. Diwu Qingro set up the stage. On that day the Diwu family invited a troupe to perform. In other words, he would only watch. She sang her own opera. The 10th birthday celebration. However, the word de shun should not have been added at the end. Although it was a nice thing to say, after adding it here it seemed very disrespectful. In that case there must be another meaning behind it. And in front of it was the beginning of the 12th lunar month. The meaning of this should be, at present there is already a clan that has stepped into this whirlpool. As long as he ignited this fire, it would cause a war between the big families. Chu Yang's eyes flickered as he quickened his pace. In that case, if you, Diwu Qingro, want to watch a good show, then I will give you a good performance and let you see how powerful your brother is. Don't think that you, Diwu Qingro, are awesome just because you can devise strategies. Thinking of the bag of medicine in the space of tribulations, thinking of Lan Changa's eagerness and unbearable expression every time he urged him, Chu Yang could not help but smile. Chaos was a good thing. This Diwu clan. It should be a subsidiary clan of the Zhuge clan. Han Xiaoran said inexplicably. Yes, Chu Yang replied softly. Doing such a thing, it is too embarrassing for the Zhuge clan. Han Xiaoran was in a good mood today. He smiled and said, this Diwu Qingro actually did such a thing. If I were Zhuge Shanyun, I would give him a good beating. He is really a nouveau riche. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. The reason why Diwu Qingro dared to do so. He was clearly sending a message to him. I have a high position in the Zhuge clan. I have a high position. Otherwise, with Diwu Qingro's steadiness, how could he be so rash when he has no position? From this point of view, Zhuge Shanyun might not have the guts to beat Diwu Qingro. As they chatted and laughed, the two followed the crowd to a place. It was a huge square with a radius of thousands of feet. It was extremely magnificent. Opposite the square, there were tall buildings that rose from the ground. Above, there were 4 big words that shone with golden light under the sun. Medicine Festival. Chu Yang sucked in a cold breath. He had been to this place 3 days ago. At that time it was still a mountain. Beside it there was a lake that surrounded it. But today there were no mountains and rivers. It had become a piece of empty land. And the ground was extremely solid and flat. The medicine festival is like this. Han Xiaoran said lightly. Several supreme martial artists worked together to remove all the water and raise the mountain to the ground. It only took a moment. Amazing. Chu Yang said. This is nothing, Han Xiaoran said. The battle between the Dharma Supreme and Wu Jueqing that year was really a change of the world. Wu Jueqing was in midair. He grabbed a mountain and floated in the air. The two of them held a mountain in each hand and fought against each other. Fuck. Chu Yang was stunned. Grabbing a mountain with one hand? Fighting against each other? This is too powerful? Who is Wu Jueqing? Chu Yang heard this name and couldn't help but ask curiously. Han Xiaoran coughed twice. There was a trace of unnaturalness on his face. He said, he's a senior expert. You'll know in the future. Chu Yang was surprised. He heard Han Xiaoran's voice in his ear. Wu Jueqing is the only successor of supreme martial artist Chen Feng. Chu Yang was shocked. His expression didn't change. Instantly, he knew that this name and identity seemed to be taboo. Chu Yang looked at the building in front of him and said, the rooms here are very unique. The rooms here are prepared for the pharmacists. Han Xiaoran revealed a look of disdain, as if he was an ignorant country bumpkin. The Night Emperor peeled off the outer skin of a mountain from outside. He picked a few pieces of the biggest and sturdiest stones and carried them back. Then he used the whole stones to dig out spaces and stairs. So all the rooms here are a whole piece of stone. Chu Yang coughed repeatedly. Fuck. It seems that I can't even lift a stone like this. This Night Emperor actually peeled off the outer skin of a mountain, and then picked a few pieces of the biggest and sturdiest stones, and carried them back? From outside the city? Carried them back? Chu Yang stared. Yes, from outside the city he carried them and flew back, Han Xiaoran added as if he didn't hit him hard enough. Carried them and flew back? Chu Yang was speechless. Are you stupid? How can you enter the city with such a big stone? What if you don't fly back? Han Xiaoran said as a matter of fact. Cough cough. So it's forced out. So helpless. Chu Yang raised his hands and surrendered. Yes, it's forced out. Han Xiaoran sighed pretentiously. You and I can be where we are today. Isn't it also forced out? Brother Han. I know you're happy today, but you're really not suitable for pretending, Chu Yang reminded him seriously. Han Xiaoran laughed loudly. Bringing Chu Yang in, the Southeast law enforcement master still had a lot of face. A disciple from the Zhuge clan who was in charge of the outer area of the medicine banquet had already come over. He brought Han Xiaoran in. Then he left. Chu Yang then knew that the Medicine Valley's people were in charge of the internal affairs of the medicine banquet, although it was in the territory of the Zhuge clan. But the people of the Zhuge clan could only be in charge of the periphery. There were dozens of tables in front of him. Behind each table there were two people in white sitting. Behind them there was a passageway and a room. These dozens of people seemed to have the same expression. Their faces were even more impartial than Han Xiaoran's. Seeing the Southeast law enforcement master coming in and coming to a table, that person actually asked without raising his head or opening his eyes, "Who are you?" The Southeast law enforcement master, Han Xiaoran. "I've brought the pharmacist of the Southeast law enforcement master to participate in the medicine banquet." Han Xiaoran smiled and said, "Oh, law enforcement master Han, please step back and let the pharmacist come over to register," that person said lightly. Chu Yang was really convinced. It was said that the people of the Medicine Valley were very big. Chu Yang didn't understand what very big meant, but now he finally knew. Very big. It was simply awesome and explosive. Facing the Southeast law enforcement master, he actually said, "Step back." "What the hell?" Chu Yang went forward. "Name?" that person asked casually. "Chu Yang replied. "Gender?" that person asked. Chu Yang felt dizzy. "Gender? I'm fucking right in front of you, do you still think that I'm a girl?" At this moment, he heard such a rigid conversation from the table next to him. "Name? Gender?" Chu Yang turned his head and saw that the pharmacists who were being interrogated all had very interesting expressions on their faces. One of them even involuntarily looked at his own crotch, as if he suddenly had doubts about himself after hearing this sentence. He wanted to take a look to confirm. "Cough cough, male," Chu Yang confirmed. As he said, he touched his nose. Actually, he wanted to touch his crotch to confirm. But he was too embarrassed to do so. "Cough cough, male?" that person frowned and scolded. "I'm asking your gender. If you're male, then you're male. If you're female, then you're female. What do you mean by cough cough, male?" Chu Yang was instantly furious. Han Xiaoran, who was at the side, hurriedly winked at him. "Male?" Minister Chu swallowed his anger and said, How old?" 10. "What medicine did you bring? Show me." That person rolled his eyes and despised him in his heart. What can a 10-year-old pharmacist do? What good medicine can he bring? Looks like he's just here to make up the numbers. This. Chu Yang took out a purple crystal box and handed it over. "What's this? Can't you speak?" The man glared at him, then picked up the box and opened it. Suddenly, his whole body shivered and his face turned red, then white as snow. He cried out involuntarily, "It's me. What did I see?" The pharmacists at the side all turned their heads to look. But this person still stared with his eyes wide open. He said in a moaning tone, "Black-blooded red fruit. Top quality? Oh my god." This person was so arrogant before, but now he suddenly became like this. He was so shocked that young Master Chu almost went crazy from shock. And second update. There are guests at home today, so update 2. The house in my hometown is going to be demolished. My uncles all came here to discuss this matter with my dad. Sigh, it makes me want to cry. 2.5 years ago they said that it was going to be demolished. After waiting for a long time they said that there was no hope. So, I got into debt and bought a house. Now that I bought the house, they said that it's going to be demolished. I'm going crazy. If I had known, I wouldn't have worked so hard. Damn it, the huge debt is almost crushing me to death. G. Chapter 10:15. Black-blooded vermilion fruit. With this shout, everyone's gazes immediately turned to him. A few people in white even abandoned the pharmacists who were being interrogated in front of their tables and ran over. Before those pharmacists who were racking their brains to think about the question gender could finish their thought, the person in charge of the assessment had already disappeared. They were at a loss for a moment. "I haven't answered, why did you leave?" "Then am I a man or a woman?" after the person in white in front of Chu Yang shouted. He raised his head and sized Chu Yang up with a burning gaze. Up and down, left and right, he was extremely meticulous. Chu Yang got goosebumps from being sized up by such a gaze. Damn, one Yi Shiyu was already scary enough. Yi Shiyu was at most a transvestite, not that. What if this guy was a real B***starred, and actually took a fancy to him? In that instant, young Master Chu was already thinking very far ahead. At this moment, a few people in white had already pounced over like wolves. They grabbed the purple crystal box and put their heads over. Black-blooded red fruit. It's a real black-blooded red fruit. And it's a top-grade one. I'm going to faint. There's actually such a top-grade red fruit in this world. It looks like it'll take more than 10,000 years to mature? Bullshit. The red fruit in the black blood forest takes 100 times longer to mature than those outside. It won't mature for less than 15,000 years. You actually said that it'll take more than 10,000 years? Even if you don't have knowledge, you should at least be knowledgeable. Let me see. What the heck? There's really such a thing. Good stuff. Sounds of admiration could be heard. The eyes of the doctors from the Medicine Valley lit up and they looked excited, as if they had discovered a new continent. Their previous coldness and inflexibility had long been thrown out of the window. Jianghu was dumbfounded. Were these still the people who asked about the gender of the man just now? The people from the Medicine Valley are like this. Other than medicine, they're also interested in medical skills. They don't care about other things at all. These are still the stronger ones. The few elders from the Medicine Valley are the truly awesome ones. Even if a supreme martial artist stands in front of them, he'll still have a cold face, Han Xiaoran explained telepathically. Jianghu smiled bitterly and nodded. You don't need to tell me that. I can already tell. Actually, the people from the Medicine Valley are still the group that I find the most pleasing to the eye. That's because although they're rigid and unapproachable, they're still the best. But his attitude towards patients is always the same. It's the same no matter who he is facing. Han Xiaoran sighed. Jianghu nodded. Get out of the way. The crowd parted and a white-haired old man with a sparse white beard rushed over, surrounded by 4 warriors who were clearing the way for him. The old man was still impatient and kept urging, get out of the way, get out of the way. Hurry up, hurry up. The old man's clothes were neat and tidy. Although he was a little short, his hair was neat and tidy. His face was ruddy. If he wasn't in such a hurry, he would probably be a very dignified person. However, the urgency at this moment destroyed his temperament. But he clearly didn't care about his image anymore. Finally they came close. The old man coughed in a dignified manner. Ahem. Cough cough. What a bunch of bastards. Don't they have any discernment? Get out of the way. Let me take a look. The old man was a little unhappy that no one bothered with his coughing. He scolded. Only then did the crowd open up a gap. The old man squeezed in with his shoulder against someone's chest. He couldn't wait any longer. I heard it's the black-blooded red fruit? Then, ah. The old man exclaimed and said incoherently, it's really the black-blooded red fruit. Fuck its mother. Following his excited scolding, his saliva splattered everywhere like rain. Everyone was speechless. The old man obviously didn't realize his slip of the tongue. His entire body immediately pounced forward. His 2 eyes were glued to the outside of the purple crystal box. He greedily took 2 deep breaths. His voice was trembling, and his pair of hands actually started to tremble like crazy. Is really? That's not right. Everyone was shocked. What's wrong with this? This is obviously the fruit. One of the pharmacists mustered up his courage and said, Fifth Elder, this is the black-blooded red fruit. What do you know? With your little knowledge, how can you know what good stuff this is? The 5th Elder scolded without even raising his head. How is this a black-blooded red fruit? This is obviously the best purple ice snow in the red fruit forest. Purple ice snow. The old man exclaimed excitedly. He closed the purple crystal box and raised his head. Who brought it here? Who brought it here? Stand out now. It was as if he wanted to fight. Jianghu had been dumbfounded for a long time. He had always known that the herbs in the black blood forest were very precious, but that was all. He didn't expect that a mere black-blooded red fruit would cause such a huge commotion. Jianghu had still underestimated the value of the herbs in the black blood forest. This kind of shock seemed to be much higher than what he had expected. I brought it here. Looking at the white-bearded old man's originally small eyes, which were now like searchlights, Jianghu had no choice but to bite the bullet and step forward to say something. Where did you get it? The 5th Elder looked at the young man in front of him. What did you bring it for? To sell it? No, I brought it. Jianghu hurriedly explained. Not to sell it? The 5th Elder was very disappointed. He interrupted Jianghu's explanation and hugged the box even tighter. I'll buy it. No. What do you want? Elixirs? Or purple crystals? Jianghu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. 5th Elder, this is a pharmacist. He's here to register. A pharmacist from the Medicine Valley at the side said carefully, this red fruit is for the preliminary selection. The 5th Elder was stunned. Then he suddenly quivered. Preliminary selection? He suddenly stomped his foot. Such a heavenly treasure is only for the preliminary selection? What a prodigal! What a prodigal! He stared at him. Such a medicine. How can it only be used for the preliminary selection? This is simply blasphemy to a heavenly treasure. This is an uncountable sin. Chu Yang was sweating profusely. I brought it for the preliminary selection, which is equivalent to giving it to you. But you actually accepted the elixirs and scolded me for being a prodigal. This is a sin. What the fuck, whose side are you on? Then, the fifth elder suddenly came back to his senses. In other words, this is a contribution to the medicine banquet? It's ours? The pharmacist from the Medicine Valley nodded speechlessly. You've finally come to your senses. I've accepted it. Ha ha ha. The fifth elder blew his white beard and laughed proudly. Then, did I pass the qualification? Chu Yang asked carefully. Did I pass? Do you still need to ask? The fifth elder flew into a rage. This is blasphemy to a heavenly treasure. Bastard. If I can't pass with such a medicine, it's simply intolerable. Chu Yang wisely kept his mouth shut. This old man was already half crazy from just one red fruit. If he knew that I still had 34 red fruits, wouldn't he eat me alive? Bring me the qualification token. The fifth elder turned and shouted. His voice was somewhat ferocious. Hurry. Then a jade token was brought over. The person who brought it over reminded him in a low voice, Fifth elder. This is not in accordance with the rules. We should go to the room and interrogate him. Then fill in the information and give out the token. Not in accordance, my ass. The fifth elder roared angrily. Hurry up and finish this. I'll take the red fruit away for safekeeping. This idiot actually used a purple crystal box to store it. Bastard, what a waste. The medicine is already starting to lose its potency. What a prodigal. You better hurry up. If you dawdle any longer, I'll attach a tail to your butt. Do you believe me? That person was shocked and hurriedly handed over the jade token. The fifth elder grabbed it and asked Chu Yang, What's your name? Chu Yang hurriedly replied. The fifth elder used his fingers like a knife. With a stroke, the two words Chu Yang were carved on the opposite side of the jade token. It was too sloppy and didn't look like Chu Yang at all. Instead, it looked more like the three words Lin Ri. Chu Yang took it and looked left and right. It didn't look like his name. He couldn't help but frown. Elder. The words on this token, don't look like my name. The fifth elder said angrily, It's enough that you have this token. Why do you care if it looks like your name or not? Look at the number on it. Do you know? Go when the number is called, it's definitely right. The name is just a code. Scram to one side, who stores the scarlet fruit like you? Bastard. If you didn't meet me, the potency of the scarlet fruit would have been lost. He looked at Chu Yang snappily and said, Bring your cards and follow me. Chu Yang didn't even have the time to put the cards in his bosom before his hand was grabbed by the old man. Like an iron clamp, Chu Yang was pulled into the passageway and into the small house, almost as if he was being dragged alive. He left behind a sea of envious gazes. This guy's luck is really good. He actually took a fancy to a scarlet fruit. As soon as the fifth elder entered the house, he hurriedly took out a box made of purple crystal jade core. With a schwa sound, he poured out the medicine inside and carefully took out the scarlet fruit from Chu Yang's purple crystal box. He put it into the purple crystal jade core box and quickly closed it. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. He put the rest of the medicine into the purple crystal box and slowly tidied it up. After tidying up, he turned his head and looked at Chu Yang. What's your name? Chu Yang? Chu Yang replied speechlessly. Oh, I remember now. The fifth elder said, Where are you from? Southeast Law Enforcement Pharmacist. Chu Yang's face darkened. Oh. The fifth elder seemed to be thinking about something and said absent-mindedly. Suddenly he raised his head and looked at Chu Yang. He wanted to say something, but there was a trace of confusion in his eyes. He slapped his forehead. Look at my memory, what's your name? Chu Yang almost cried. My name is Chu Yang. Yes. Chu Yang, I called you here to ask you something. The fifth elder slapped his forehead again, but his eyes became more passionate. It was like a young girl in love who saw her lover after a long separation. It was deep and affectionate. When Chu Yang saw this kind of expression, he couldn't help but shrink back. He instinctively hugged his chest and said vigilantly, like a young girl guarding against a pervert, What are you doing? The second time might be a little later. My train of thought is a little slow. To be continued. Chapter 10:16. Nothing much. The fifth elder rubbed his hands and revealed a standard, lecherous smile in Chu Yang's eyes. He chuckled and said, I just wanted to ask you. How should I put it? Chu Yang almost wanted to escape. He said in a trembling voice, You're already so old. The fifth elder glared at him. What does this have to do with age? I'm old but not old at heart. Chu Yang was speechless. What exactly do you want? He thought to himself, if this old man makes any unreasonable requests, I'll just slap you unconscious and leave. How did you get this medicine? The old man looked at Chu Yang with a greedy look. Chu Yang was surprised. Medicine. The old man frowned and held back his impatience. Yes, medicine. Oh my God. Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief. You scared me to death. I thought you wanted to do that. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This time, it was the old man's turn to be puzzled. He scratched his head and asked in puzzlement, What do I want to do? Nothing, Chu Yang said awkwardly. Nothing? The old man's face was full of question marks. Cough cough. I have a special channel for this medicine. Chu Yang changed the topic. He rolled his eyes and spoke quickly. Special channel? The fifth elder's eyes lit up even more like searchlights. Yes. Chu Yang chuckled and said carefully, I have a friend. A friend who has a good relationship with the zone owner of the Black Blood Forest. A good relationship with the zone owner of the Black Blood Forest? The old man was even more excited. He said incoherently, What's the name of this friend of yours? Chu Yang smiled meaningfully. I'm too presumptuous. How can I ask about this? The fifth elder patted his forehead self-mockingly and said, So, he has a huge amount of medicinal herbs from the Black Blood Forest? It doesn't seem to be a lot. Chu Yang explained, because after the zone owner collects them, a portion of them will be distributed as welfare to the people of the Black Blood Forest. Therefore, I can only give him a small portion. A small portion is not a small amount. Where is it? The fifth elder had already moved his butt and sat over. How much is it? This? Chu Yang hesitated. Tell me, what are your conditions? The fifth elder said confidently. It seemed as if he would be able to satisfy any condition that Chu Yang put forward. The herbs from the Black Blood Forest. What the Chongtian continent lacked the most. Cough cough. This friend of mine needs some medicinal herbs that the Black Blood Forest doesn't have. Also, he needs purple crystals. A huge amount of purple crystals, an ocean of purple crystals. Chu Yang's eyes flickered slightly as he said lightly, Fifth elder, everyone has brought a lot of medicinal herbs for this medicine banquet. Because of the special properties of the medicine, if it's not used, it will be damaged after a long time. So it's usually dealt with on the spot? There is indeed such a thing. The fifth elder nodded. He said, Spiritual herbs of heaven and earth have their own characteristics. The more precious something was, the harder it was to preserve it. Take the 7-star exquisite grass for example. If it's left for a night, it will soften a little. Once it softens, more than half of its medicinal properties will have been lost, and it won't be worth much anymore. But a complete 7-star exquisite grass can be sold at a sky-high price. In addition, in this medicine banquet, only spiritual herbs of heaven and earth with their own vitality can be selected. So, even if they are protected by a secret technique, they can't be preserved for long after the journey here. The best way is to deal with them on the spot. Yes, as expected. I heard that after the preliminary competition, there will be an auction of 10,000 herbs? Hosted by the Zhuge clan? Chu Yang said softly. You want to auction it? The highest bidder will get it? The fifth elder frowned slightly. If that was the case, the Medicine Valley wouldn't be able to get many of them. I have no choice. Chu Yang spread out his hands and said helplessly, That friend of mine wants to maximize the benefits. Sai, a profiteer, a pure profiteer. Maximize the benefits? That's understandable. The fifth elder comforted him. Then he asked excitedly, Then, how much can he offer this time? So far, he's only given me 30 to 40 stalks. Chu Yang hesitated. So many? The fifth elder was dumbfounded. To be able to get 30 to 40 stalks of herbs from the Black Blood Forest? This was really an extraordinary method. If he can sell all of them. He seems to have 700 to 800 stalks. Chu Yang continued. Mother. The fifth elder exclaimed, Oh my mother. 700 to 800 stalks of herbs from the Black Blood Forest. He gasped as if he had a toothache. He looked at Chu Yang with his eyes wide open and his mouth agape. His body leaned back with all his might and he really almost fell off the chair. I heard from him that he has this many. Chu Yang took out a folded piece of paper from his sleeve. But the amount of herbs he needs from the outside world is really quite a lot. The fifth elder took the paper and looked at it. He couldn't help but let out a hiss. His hand that was twirling his beard shook and he actually pulled out a strand of it. It's indeed quite a lot. This is really, really fucking comprehensive. Looks like this pharmacist of yours is also a top-notch pharmacist. The fucking variety of herbs he's chosen. There are only unexpected ones but not unexpected ones. Sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, tonic, poison, it's all there. It was no wonder that the fifth elder was shocked. This list of Chu Yang's was practically a complete collection of rare herbs. Including what kind of herbs he wanted, what name, how old they were, what shape they were, and what color they were. All of these were clearly explained. If this list fell into the eyes of someone who didn't know the trade, it would only be a detailed list of herbs. But in the eyes of the fifth elder of the Medicine Valley, it was amazing. Which type of medicine could produce the greatest effect when paired with which type of medicine? Which type of tonic combined with another type of tonic would become a deadly poison? Which type of precious medicine when put together would instead become a bowl of plain water? The combinations on this list. It was practically flawless. There were even some recipes that the fifth elder didn't know about. Now that he saw them, he immediately understood. The fifth elder looked at it for a long time. Only then did he raise his head solemnly. These herbs are not especially rare heavenly treasures. I believe that most of them can be collected. However, just this order alone is worth a lot. At the very least, we can afford to spend 500,000 purple crystals. Chu Yang nodded slowly. That's right. So you're only giving me this list. No, I still have to look at the list of herbs in the Black Blood Forest before I can make a comparison and give you a clear answer, said the fifth elder. Fifth elder is indeed a straightforward person. Chu Yang knew that his plan was already halfway to success. He laughed. The other list has already been prepared long ago. It's here. As he said, Chu Yang took out another piece of paper from his sleeve and handed it over. This time the fifth elder read it very quickly. He only looked at the first few lines, the next one and the last one before he immediately closed the list. He closed his eyes and took a few quick breaths. Only then did he open his eyes and say, "If it's really okay." Chu Yang nodded. He said, "This friend of mine has a strange personality and doesn't like to show his face in public. Besides, his identity is sensitive. So, fifth elder, please understand this point." The fifth elder said, "As long as there are herbs, everything is negotiable." Chu Yang nodded deeply and said, "This friend of mine once said that once the transaction is successful and these herbs are auctioned off, the person in charge of this matter can take 10% of the profits." 10%? The fifth elder's eyes lit up. 10% didn't seem like much, but the fifth elder who had just looked at the list deeply knew the terrifying value of this list. 10% was enough to make a person as rich as a country. "Can I exchange 10% for elixirs?" asked the fifth elder anxiously. At his level, he was no longer very interested in things like money and purple crystals. The only thing he was interested in were elixirs. Of course. Chu Yang laughed. And the Medicine Valley can definitely participate in the auction. As long as the Medicine Valley has the ability, it doesn't matter even if they buy all of them. Buy all of them? The Medicine Valley definitely doesn't have the ability to do so. The fifth elder smiled bitterly. We can only try our best. The two of them discussed for a long time and finalized all the details. Then Chu Yang walked out of the small house slowly and disappeared into the crowd. The moment he came out, the fifth elder immediately sent out a divine sense transmission. Then a few divine senses wrapped around Chu Yang's body. Chu Yang walked out as if he didn't feel anything. This matter was considered very sudden to him. Originally, he wanted to use Han Xiaoran's name to allow the herbs from the Black Blood Forest to enter the auction. However, that would put Han Xiaoran in a huge crisis. Now that the Medicine Valley had stepped in, it was naturally safer. The people from the Medicine Valley would definitely not allow these herbs to be lost, so the news would not be leaked. Before tracking Chu Yang and coming into contact with that mysterious friend, the Medicine Valley would definitely not do anything. As for what if they kidnapped Chu Yang in advance and interrogated him? Chu Yang now had Zi Sheqing by his side. Who would he be afraid of? To be honest, he was still worried that the Medicine Valley wouldn't make a move. Once they made a move and Chu Yang had something on them, with Zi Sheqing's current strength as the world's #1 expert, the Medicine Valley would really be led by the nose by Chu Yang if they couldn't win in a fight. If the Medicine Valley didn't make a move, Chu Yang could smoothly sell the herbs and silently make a fortune. But if the Medicine Valley made a move, then this matter would immediately become a huge trap for the Medicine Valley. Once the Medicine Valley was involved, with Chu Yang's methods and Zixecheng's strength, it was enough to consign the Medicine Valley to eternal damnation. Therefore Chu Yang was certain. He was even less worried about the Medicine Valley's tracking. There was no such person at all. Even if the Medicine Valley had heavenly tracking methods, what use would it be? Chu Yang left leisurely. In the highest room of the medicine banquet, Mo Qingwu, dressed in red, was curiously leaning against the window and looking at the sea of people below. She was chewing on a piece of candy and beaming with delight. All of a sudden, the little girl seemed to see a familiar figure in the bustling crowd below. This back view disappeared in a flash. But to the little girl, it was full of affection and longing. Day and night, her mind was haunted by this figure. It had long been engraved in her heart. Even if it was just a back view, how could she not recognize it? The little girl trembled all over and almost cried out in surprise. As if she had been petrified, she suddenly froze and stood stiffly at the window. Then tears suddenly filled her bright and beautiful eyes. Heart, these two words suddenly surged up and turned into a tide of longing, instantly disrupting her state of mind. Chapter 10:17. Mo Qingwu never thought that she would really see Chu Yang here. Along the way, her master had been evading her in every possible way. She had already realized that her master probably didn't want her to meet brother Chu Yang. After all, her cultivation was achieved quickly, and her foundation was not solid at all. This period of travel was actually to stabilize her state of mind and increase her cultivation. How could Mo Qingwu not know this? Under such circumstances, meeting Chu Yang would only affect her Dao heart. So Bu Luqing had been dragging it out. He was not in a hurry and did not take any action. Although Mo Qingwu was dissatisfied, she had nothing to say. Even when Bu Luqing said that her brother Chu Yang would definitely come to the medicine banquet, she doubted it from the bottom of her heart. But at this moment, in the thousands of people below, she saw the back of that figure. The back of that figure. The back of that figure in black. Tall and straight like a sword, but with a kind of invisible laziness and carefreeness. His shoulders were not very broad, but such shoulders made Mo Qingwu feel that they could withstand all the wind and rain in the world. This back was unforgettable. Chu Yang's back disappeared in the crowd in a flash. Mo Qingwu stood on the rooftop in a daze. On her beautiful little face, 2 lines of tears slowly slid down. At this moment, she did not know what kind of feelings she had in her heart. Sadness, surprise, bitterness, some nervousness, some shyness, some confusion. She only felt that her heart was beating faster and faster, almost jumping out of her throat. She was overjoyed, but she could not even make a sound. She clearly wanted to jump down and find him immediately, to tell him how much she missed him. But the extreme surprise made her stand there like a puppet, unable to move even half an inch. She just stood there in a daze, letting her tears flow down, but did not even wipe them away. Her vision was already blurred. She could not even see the nearby window clearly, but she still stubbornly stared at the direction where Chu Yang disappeared with tears in her eyes. Her heart was crazily screaming, "Brother Chu Yang, I see you again. Brother Chu Yang, I see you again." So good. But she could not even make a sound. Finally, she covered her face with both hands, squatted down and started sobbing softly. Tears poured out crazily from his fingers. She cried harder and harder, and slowly her whole body began to tremble. "Do you know how much I miss you? Do you know how lonely I am? Do you know how lonely I am without you by my side? Do you know that I dream of you every day?" Her skinny shoulders trembled. After the pleasant surprise, a huge sour feeling attacked her heart. For a moment she couldn't control it at all. "Xiao Wu, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" Bu Luqing asked anxiously from behind. Mo Qingwu raised her small face pitifully. "Master? I saw him." Bu Liuqing's heart skipped a beat. Who? Who did you see?" "I saw my elder brother Chu Yang." Mo Qingwu wiped her tears. She felt more and more sad but also more and more happy. "I saw him, master?" Bu Luqing stared at her, dumbfounded. He repeated himself like a puppet. "You saw him?" "Yes." Mo Qingwu nodded with all her might. 2 drops of tears fell from her eyes and dripped onto the ground. Bu Luqing widened his eyes and said in a dejected manner, "Why is this bastard here?" Mo Qingwu suddenly snorted heavily. She stomped her feet and said angrily, "Master, you are a bad person." With tears, she suddenly thought of something. "I'll go find him." With a leap, she floated down from the tall building. Bu Luqing didn't stop her, and Mo Qingwu had already jumped down. He couldn't help but sigh. "Silly girl, a girl should be reserved." Then he sighed, This bastard, why did he really appear here? What a miscalculation. Mo Qingwu jumped down. In midair, a red shadow floated down like a rainbow. It was like a fairy descending from the heavens. Everyone who saw it was dumbfounded. Mo Qingwu's light figure landed at the place where Chu Yang's last figure disappeared. She ran back and forth rapidly. Her eyes were searching anxiously. Behind her, the crowd was bustling with activity. Everyone was looking at her strangely. They did not know what this beautiful young lady was looking for. Her face was filled with confusion and excitement. What was she looking for? But Mo Qingwu didn't see anyone. Her heart only had that one figure. She searched bitterly. Brother Chuyang, I'm coming. Where are you? Where are you? I clearly saw you. Where did you go? After a long time, Mo Qingwu finally stopped searching. She knew that Chuyang had gone far away. She stood there blankly. Standing in the middle of the crowd, surrounded by people, she felt a bone-deep loneliness. She couldn't help but cry. She squatted down and covered her face with her hands. She sobbed softly. Her thin shoulders couldn't help but tremble. So you are here. You are here. After a long time, someone patted her shoulder. Mo Qingwu looked back with tears in her eyes. She saw Bu Luqing standing in front of her, looking at her with pity. Be good, little Wu. Go back. Since he is here, then you will meet again one day. Mo Qingwu nodded gently. She lowered her eyes and a string of sparkling tears flowed down again. Bu Luqing held her hand and gently pulled. Both of them flew up and returned to the roof. Little Wu, you are still young. Bu Luqing thought for a long time before he sighed. Finally he advised softly, you are only 13 years old. To be exposed to this kind of love, you are still too young. This will be very detrimental to your future. Mo Qingwu looked outside in a daze. She said as if she was dreaming, Master, is this love? Bu Luqing was stunned. Is this love between a man and a woman? Mo Qingwu asked again in a daze. She seemed to be sighing and confirming. After a long time, she sighed faintly with the tone of a completely mature woman. She said, this feeling is so bitter, but I am looking forward to it. Bu Luqing was a little dizzy. This little disciple was clearly going a little crazy. He was about to persuade her again. Mo Qingwu said, how can I not think of him? My heart doesn't seem to belong to me. Master. She raised her little face and looked at Bu Luqing. She said, Master, have you tasted this kind of love? Bu Luqing was startled. His thoughts flashed back to more than 10,000 years ago. Memories that had long been covered in dust suddenly surged into his mind. Those faces were so fresh and vivid. He thought that he had forgotten them long ago. Now that he thought about it, he realized that he hadn't forgotten them at all. He sighed deeply and stopped persuading Mo Qingwu. He sat down quietly. How many years ago? He had a wife and 2 concubines. Hundreds of years after his wife and concubine passed away, he had another wife and concubine. However, he could still remember that there was such a woman. She touched his face before she died. She looked at him longingly and said those last words. Actually, I really want to die after you. I can't bear to leave you. Without me, I pity that you still have a long time to live alone. Life is long. You will be alone, lonely and desolate. How can I be at ease? Bu Luqing thought and thought. The corners of his mouth curved into a nostalgic and desolate smile. Ever since this sentence, ever since she died, he had never thought of having a family. A long time. Yes, compared to ordinary people, he had an almost endless lifespan. He was like a god on earth. But who knew how many times he could go through such a heart-wrenching separation in this long time? Ordinary people, or even martial artists, how many people could really grow old together with him? Bu Luqing sighed deeply. At the window, the little girl in red also sighed faintly. It was actually filled with heart-wrenching feelings. Bu Luqing heard this long sigh and immediately sighed again. He really couldn't understand this world. A 13-year-old little girl, actually, Master, you don't have to worry about me. As long as I can confirm that Brother Chuyang is here, I will only be happy. Moreover, I will definitely see him. Mo Qingwu said, I will wait. Every day I will dress up beautifully. Bu Luqing sighed again and said, then I will continue to think about my matters. Sigh, now I really hope that the person sitting in front of you is Ning Tianya and not me. Mo Qingwu didn't seem to hear him. She looked out of the window again in a daze. Bu Luqing laughed bitterly and then fell into deep thought. Ever since he came here, Bu Luqing had been thinking about a problem these few days. This problem made him feel uneasy and even a faint sense of crisis. Sometimes he would feel a chill down his spine. He hadn't felt this way for a long time. But after he saw the Dharma Supreme that day, this sense of crisis became stronger. Even after he stayed here, this chill actually happened from time to time. This made Bu Luqing extremely surprised. With my cultivation, how could there be any danger here? Could it be that the Dharma Supreme really dared to snatch my brother from me? Bu Luqing's eyes flashed coldly. Thinking about the Dharma Supreme, Bu Luqing felt a little depressed and his thoughts became especially complicated. After that day's encounter, Bu Luqing felt that something was wrong. Finally, that night he remembered the reason why he felt that something was wrong. Back then, when I was apprenticed to the Dharma Supreme, my master once said, "Our divine technique can only be passed down by those with innate spiritual meridians." He told me that if I were to accept any successor in the future, I would rather abandon this technique and let it go into the dust of history than accept anyone with innate spiritual meridians. They must have innate spiritual meridians. These were the Dharma Supreme's words. Bu Luqing finally found out what was wrong. The Dharma Supreme was actually innate spiritual meridians. Bu Luqing's eyes flashed coldly like a hawk's. The Dharma Supreme was about the same age as Ning Tianya and I. Old Ning and my aptitude could only be considered good and not the best. But the Dharma Supreme had innate spiritual meridians. What did this mean? Chapter 10:18. Bu Luqing thought deeply to himself. For so many years, although the Dharma Supreme might not be able to see through him, he couldn't see through the Dharma Supreme either. But from the aspect of innate spirit meridians, at least in terms of cultivation, the Dharma Supreme was a little higher than him. Bu Luqing's eyes flashed and he snorted in his heart. He didn't expect this guy to hide so deeply. However, even if the Dharma Supreme's cultivation was higher than his, he definitely couldn't give him such a sense of oppression and danger. Then, where did this sense of danger come from? Bu Luqing was puzzled by this point. Chu Yang also frowned as he walked back. He didn't stop at all and returned to his own orchard palace. He even forgot to look for Han Xiaoran to leave together after he came out. After he entered, he hurriedly went to look for Zi Sheqing. Zi Sheqing was pushing the blood through the palace for Chu Lu'er to carry out the last step of changing her aptitude. Chu Yang said and went back to the flower rack. He waited quietly, frowning and thinking about something. After a long time, Zi Sheqing's white figure flashed and appeared in front of Chu Yang. "What's the matter? Why is your face so serious?" "Yes, the sword spirit is in seclusion. There's one thing that I can only ask you." Chu Yang looked at her solemnly. Zi Sheqing couldn't help but become serious as well. She waved her hand and a thought completely sealed the small courtyard. She said, "What's the matter?" "There's a name, I'm not sure if you've heard of it." Chu Yang took a deep breath. Wu Jueqing. Ever since Han Xiaoran said this name, Chu Yang always felt that this name seemed very familiar, but he couldn't remember when he heard it. But in his heart, he felt that this matter wasn't simple. So, once he was done, he immediately came back to look for Zi Sheqing. "Wu Jueqing?" Zi Sheqing was startled and said, "I should have heard of this name." She frowned and thought for a long time. Then she said, "It's at least a name from tens of thousands of years ago." "A name from tens of thousands of years ago?" Chu Yang pondered and only felt that there was a layer of window paper in his heart. He only needed to use a little strength to break it. "That's right. This name was very famous in the past, hence," Zi Sheqing said. She was only halfway through her words when Chu Yang suddenly slapped his thigh and said, "I remember now." "Do you remember now?" Zi Sheqing asked, only to see Chu Yang's expression become very strange. There was a kind of fear, a kind of puzzlement, and a kind of indescribable complexity. His heart couldn't help but tremble. Chu Yang remembered the words that the sword spirit had said when he had killed Odu Shao and obtained the guide to the world's poisons. At that time, the sword spirit had said, "The guide to the world of poisons doesn't only have the effect of using poison to harm people. This is the famous technique of the poison doctor, Wu Jueqing." Poison doctor Wu Jueqing was one of the brothers of the master of calamity sword 40,000 years ago. The Wu clan was also one of the big clans that ruled the concave Zai heaven 30,000 years ago. Back then, poison doctor Wu Jueqing had relied on his poison skills to roam the pugilistic world. He had never used his hands or weapons to kill and save people. While chatting and laughing, he caused the deaths of tens of thousands of people. The heroes were beheaded and they were helpless. His might shook the world. Other than being a master of poison, Wu Jueqing is also a divine physician. He is sometimes righteous and sometimes evil, but he does things as he pleases. He is indeed an eccentric of his generation. Chu Yang's heart was like thunder. One of the tribulations 40,000 years ago. Then he remembered what Han Xiaoran had said today. Back then, the battle between the Dharma Supreme and Wu Jueqing changed the world. Wu Jueqing was in mid-air, and he casually grabbed a mountain and floated it in the air. Wu Jueqing is the only successor of supreme martial artist Chen Feng. He still remembered that Han Xiaoran's expression was very strange at that time. He seemed to have said something wrong but also seemed to be afraid to say it. Poison Dr. Wu Jueqing? Chu Yang murmured, his gaze fixed on a point in the void. Supreme martial artist Chen Feng? Ghost Wu Qin, the only successor of supreme martial artist Chen Feng. Supreme martial artist Chen Feng and supreme martial artist Lu Yun were husband and wife. In other words, Wu Jueqing is the successor of supreme martial artist Chen Feng and supreme martial artist Lu Yun, one of the tribulations 40,000 years ago. Chu Yang murmured. The more he thought about it, the more confused he felt. One of the tribulations, why is he still alive? How old can the Dharma Supreme be? How did he fight with Wu Jueqing before? Chu Yang murmured to himself. Wu Qianqian said that day that the Dharma Supreme reached his current position more than 10,000 years ago. He remained unmoved all this while. In that case, the Dharma Supreme's cultivation at that time should definitely not be stronger than now. How old was Han Xiaoran now? From his tone, it was as if he had seen it with his own eyes. In other words, Han Xiaoran had witnessed the battle between the Dharma Supreme and Wu Jueqing with his own eyes. Chu Yang murmured to himself as he pondered. Zi Sheqing was right opposite him and she heard everything he said. She also knew what he was puzzled about and was also pondering at the side. This matter is very puzzling, Chu Yang said. This matter is actually not completely unsolvable. Zi Sheqing smiled softly. As long as we can confirm one thing, that Wu Jueqing is the only successor of supreme martial artist Chen Feng, that's enough. Since he is the only successor of supreme martial artist Chen Feng, then even if he is one of the tribulations, how could Chen Feng and Lu Yun watch their only bloodline die and become a foundation stone to mend the heavens? And with Chen Feng and Lu Yun's strength, even if they can't change the overall situation, it's definitely not difficult for them to change some of the minor details, or to substitute one person for another, and let Wu Jueqing escape from the disaster. Zi Sheqing said slowly. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. That's right. As for other things, it's hard to say. As for the battle between the Dharma Supreme and Wu Jueqing, the Dharma Supreme should definitely not be a match for Wu Jueqing. Zi Sheqing continued to analyze. That's right. Chu Yang nodded. But the two of them still fought. Zi Sheqing said, you can think of us. Chu Yang was shocked. You mean? Zi Sheqing nodded. There's this possibility. Chu Yang took a breath and didn't say anything. You say, if Wu Jueqing is still alive now, what would he think of the Tribulation Sword Master? Zi Sheqing tilted her head and asked. There's no need to say anything, of course, he would hate him to the core. Chu Yang didn't hesitate. Who was Wu Jueqing? The successor of martial artist Chen Feng. What kind of respectable status was this? But that Tribulation Sword Master actually almost turned him into a cornerstone for mending the heavens. Was Wu Jueqing so worthless? When he understood everything, how could he not hate the Tribulation Sword Master? Thinking of this, Chu Yang felt a little creeped out. He murmured, that means, in this heavens there's an almost unrivaled opponent. Zi Sheqing continued indifferently, and the Dharma Supreme is obviously an enemy of the Tribulation Sword Master. Wu Jueqing is also an enemy. The enemy of one's enemy is one's friend. So the Dharma Supreme and Wu Jueqing can't be enemies. Similarly, the friend of one's enemy is one's enemy. Zi Sheqing said, Chu Yang, as the fourth Tribulation Sword Master, the pressure on you is probably even greater than the previous Tribulation Sword Masters combined. Chu Yang smiled bitterly and nodded. At least I've never heard of the big aristocratic families having so many supreme martial artists in the previous generations. This was the truth. From the memories of the first Tribulation Sword Master, one could know that the big aristocratic families back then only had 3 to 5 supreme martial artists. But how many had appeared now? That was something that couldn't even be compared to. Do you know why? Zi Sheqing blinked and smiled. What? This continent is called the Heavens Continent. Tribulation Sword Master, the technique you're practicing is the Heavens Divine Technique. Zi Sheqing's voice was serious. It's extremely limited. Tribulation Sword's path has come to an end. If I'm not wrong, this 10,000 years of grievances will end in your hands. Zi Sheqing said indifferently. Chu Yang's body shook visibly. Moreover, the Tribulation Sword Master's brother mending the heavens was an irreversible situation. Even if Chen Feng and Lu Yun went against the heavens to save Wu Jueqing, they would probably have to pay a price. Chu Yang was deep in thought. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he muttered, an irreversible situation. he emphasized the words before this, and before this. Big Sister Z, can you use your divine senses to search this Tianji city to see if Wu Jueqing is here? Chuyang asked. Zi Sheqing smiled bitterly and shook her head. If someone of this level deliberately hides his aura, I'm afraid I won't be able to find him. Not to mention them, even if an ordinary first-grade supreme martial artist deliberately hides his aura, I won't be able to find him with my divine senses. Then she raised her eyebrows. You're worried about Wu Jueqing? Chuyang smiled bitterly. Someone from 40,000 years ago. What level has his cultivation reached now? Zi Sheqing said disdainfully, as long as he hasn't collapsed the heavens and shattered the void, then no matter how strong he is, he can't be that strong. For someone who has reached that level, will he not collapse the heavens and shatter the void? But stay? Chuyang asked. Not necessarily. Zi Sheqing said, you don't know how tempting that level is to a martial artist. Even I couldn't withstand it back then. What about Qin Feng and Lu Yun? Didn't they leave just the same? Moreover, if one defies the heavens and stays, he will be punished by the heavens once every 1,000 years. Every continent has a balance point. If a person's existence is enough to break the balance, then the heavens will punish him. Of course, if one can withstand such temptation and the heavens' punishment once every 1,000 years, then, at least in terms of mentality, this person is simply incredible. Zi Sheqing said slowly. Chuyang nodded. But he still couldn't let go of his worries. What if Wu Jueqing deliberately took revenge on the Tribulation Sword Master? What would happen? One must know that the reason why the Tribulation Sword Master could make him one of the tribulations was that he had obtained all of his loyalty, emotions, friendship, and so on, all the good things. But at the last moment all these good things would turn into monstrous hatred. This hatred was even worse than being irreconcilable. Continue writing. There should be more updates later. Now that I've said it here with everyone watching me, I'm not afraid of being lazy anymore. To be honest, catching up on updates is different from exploding. At least my mentality is different. I always want to be lazy. This habit has to be changed. Chapter 10:19. I've met Qin Feng and Lu Yun once. Zi Sheqing pondered and said, so I can't kill this Wu Jueqing. But, before I leave, if he dares to show his face, I'll cripple half of him. Chuyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. Since Qin Feng and Lu Yun have met you, then Wu Jueqing should know of your existence. His eyes flashed and he said, there's always a taller mountain. If you flatten all the mountains, I'm afraid I won't have any more mountains to climb. He chuckled. How can I reach the top if there's no mountain to climb? Zi Sheqing smiled warmly and said, Chuyang, you're really the one with the most fighting spirit among all the people I've met. Chuyang laughed. For the next 3 days the people from the Medicine Valley kept a close watch on the Orchard Palace, but Chuyang didn't do anything. He just pretended not to know. Chulu finally recovered and felt her body relaxed. She pulled Chuyang and Zi Sheqing excitedly and chattered non-stop. That night, when the three of them were talking, Chulu suddenly sighed in melancholy. Zi Sheqing was puzzled and asked, what's a little girl like you sighing for? Chulu said worriedly, Sister Z, if you don't leave and stay here forever, how great would that be? Don't leave? Stay here forever? Zi Sheqing tilted her head. What do you mean? Chulu hugged her arm and said coquettishly, Sister Z, you can stay and marry my big brother? You can be my sister-in-law, how great would that be? As she said, she turned and asked Chuyang, Big brother, don't you think so? Zi Sheqing's face turned red and she reprimanded, Nonsense. Chuyang touched his nose and smiled bitterly. He thought to himself, this Sister Z of yours is indeed pretty, but it's a pity that her methods are too cruel. I'm no match for her now, so if I were to really marry her, my life would be in an abyss of misery and suffering. Of course he wouldn't dare to say this even if he was beaten to death. Chuyang could only say jokingly, I'm quite willing. If such a beauty can be my wife, I'll be so happy. Zi Sheqing's face turned cold and she said, Stop this topic. I'm going to sleep. He stood up, ignored the two of them and walked out. Behind her, Chulu watched her leave. She winked at Chuyang and said, Big brother, did you see that? Sister Z likes you a little. Nonsense. Chuyang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But she blushed just now, Chulu argued. Chuyang said carefully, You're wrong. Any woman will blush when you say such things. However, there's one thing you're wrong about. Ever since Big Sister Z came to the Chongtian continent, after traveling for a period of time, I entered the Black Blood Forest. Then, for so many years she stayed in there by herself. We may have helped her relieve her loneliness, but she definitely didn't like me. Also, after interacting with me for a while, Big Sister Z has come to appreciate my tenacity. It's a form of appreciation, but it's not affection. You have to be clear about this. Another thing is, a woman. Women were born to like strong men. Only men who were stronger than themselves would gain the favor of women. Normally, families had to be of equal social status before they could become in-laws. It's the same for martial artists. Big Sister Z's cultivation is far from mine. Between us, so, Chuyang said with a sullen face, Lure, don't say such things again in the future. If Big Sister Z gets angry with you, I won't help you. Chu Lure nodded her head, feeling wronged. Although Chuyang spoke in a low voice, how could he hide from Zi Sheqing's sensitive hearing? How could Zi Sheqing not hear what he said to Chu Lure? In the room on the other side, Zi Sheqing listened to the words that entered her ears and couldn't help but feel a little stunned, relieving my loneliness. But it's not affection. Appreciation, but it's not affection. Of equal social status, perhaps it's really like this? The three of them stayed in the Orchard Palace for 3 days. From the 4th day onwards, Chuyang suddenly became busy. He left early and returned late every day. The day's time was almost equally divided between Nangong Shifeng, Lanchanga and the rest. He was constantly collecting new information and plotting something. Every night he was racking his brains. Whenever he had time, he would squat on the ground and draw something with a tree branch. During this period of time, the amount of information that he was thinking about was huge and the relationships were tangled and complicated. Even Zi Sheqing was shocked when she saw it. She really realized that a wise man and a martial artist were worlds apart. After 2 days of busy work, he stopped again. Then Chuyang started to get busy again. But this time he was busy passively. Yi Shifeng from the Yi clan was the first to find him. Brother Chu, you seem to be very free today? Chuyang laughed. It's all right, I have nothing to do these few days. I'm just idle. But in his heart he scolded, nonsense. I'm free today? What I'm busy with every day has been clearly investigated by you, how can you not know? If I'm not free today, would you come at such a coincidence? That's great. Yi Shifeng laughed heartily and said, let's go, I've long wanted to drink with Brother Chu. Today is a heaven-sent opportunity. This. Chuyang hesitated and his eyes flickered. What? Brother Chu, are you not going to give me face? Yi Shifeng pretended to be unhappy. It's just the two of us, what's the big deal? Let's go, let's go. We feel like old friends at first sight, we should be good friends. Brother Chu, until now, I finally understand that in the martial world, friends are the most precious. He sighed. I know people all over the world, but how many soulmates do I have? Brother Chu. Chuyang laughed and finally made up his mind. He said, Brother Yi, to be honest, it's inconvenient for me to go out now. Why not? Let's have a drink at the Orchard Palace. I still have some good wine here. That's great, but I'm afraid I'll disturb Brother Chu's peace. Yi Shifeng said. What's the big deal? Chuyang pulled him into the house. Chuyang personally cooked a few dishes and took out some wine. Both of them were not afraid of the cold and sat under the flower rack in the courtyard to drink. I didn't expect Brother Chu's culinary skills to be so good. Yi Shifeng picked up a piece of meat that was too salty to eat and swallowed it. I really can't stop praising the food. But in his heart he thought, this is really bad, I shouldn't have accepted his invitation. Damn it, is this cooking? Even decocting medicine doesn't taste so bad. Chuyang laughed and eagerly served Yi Shifeng food. He said with a smile of exultation, to be honest, Brother Yi, I've learned from a famous chef in the southeast region for a few days, it's barely passable. Yi Shifeng's stomach churned. He said sincerely, Brother Chu's culinary skills are unforgettable. That's true. Chuyang accompanied him to eat. But the way he ate was terrible. Every time he picked up a dish, he would cover his face with his hand and eat it. When he covered his face, he directly threw the dish into the tribulation dimension. Then he picked up a piece of delicious food from the table in the tribulation dimension and threw it into his mouth, chewing with relish. Yi Shifeng only felt that every dish was extremely salty. It was either extremely bitter or completely tasteless. But Chuyang was eating with a smile of exultation. He was also eating. Yi Shifeng was embarrassed to not eat. Chuyang ate in big mouthfuls and eagerly gave in to him. On the surface, Yi Shifeng was also beaming with joy. He praised Chuyang and ate in big mouthfuls. He only felt that his internal organs were churning together in protest. His stomach was about to be on fire. Yi Shifeng could only drink with all his might. Brother Chu, you've been getting along well with Lanchanga recently. Yi Shifeng was rambling and suddenly brought the topic to this. Chu Yang was immediately taken aback. With a thud, his chopsticks fell to the ground. His face seemed to have turned pale. Ah, Brother Chu. Yi Shifeng looked at him drunkenly. Are you drunk? I'm drunk. Chu Yang smiled unnaturally. Brother Chu. Yi Shifeng leaned closer and said in a serious voice, Brother Chu, what do you think of the Yi clan and the Lan clan? Chu Yang said without hesitation, the Yi clan has dominated the heavenly layer for 10,000 years. Of course the Yi clan is slightly better. Yi Shifeng nodded and chuckled. He took out a snow-white object from his chest and placed it on the table. He pushed it in front of Chu Yang and said, Brother Chu, why are you here this time? Brother Chu is not stupid. Of course you know. I won't beat around the bush. He paused for a while and said, Brother Chu, if you really want to acknowledge me as your brother, keep this. I just need a word from you. A strong and fresh medicinal fragrance was emitted. Jade spirit ginseng. One of the great medicinal herbs of the heavenly layer. Of course, this jade spirit ginseng was only in the shape of a ginseng and had not reached the level of a great medicinal herb. However, it was definitely a top-notch treasure. This piece of ginseng was at least half a tael. It could be said to be extremely valuable. Chu Yang looked at the jade spirit ginseng greedily. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Yi Shifeng said, Brother Chu, I just need a word from you and this piece of jade spirit ginseng is yours. He smiled and said, This is a piece of jade spirit ginseng that is close to 20,000 years old. As a pharmacist you should know its value. This little brother's sincerity has already been laid bare in front of Brother Chu. If Brother Chu refuses, I have nothing to say. I can only keep the jade spirit ginseng and leave. Treat it as if we have never met. Chu Yang looked at the jade spirit ginseng with a complicated expression. It was as if he was having an intense battle in his heart. He remained silent for a long time. Yi Shifeng sighed and stood up. If that's the case, I will take my leave. As he said that, he reached out to take the jade spirit ginseng. Wait. Chu Yang held his hand and finally made up his mind. He said, Brother Yi, since Brother Yi has treated me as a national scholar, how can I not know how to appreciate your kindness? He swallowed his saliva and gritted his teeth. He lowered his voice and said, I know what Brother Yi wants to know. I can only tell you one thing. Yi Shifeng's eyes lit up like lightning. Brother Chu, please speak. At the beginning of the 12th lunar month. Brother Yi, you have to be careful. Also, you have to pay attention to the Lan clan's movements. Chu Yang said hurriedly. I'm in a good condition now. I'm fighting with the Dark Mountain gang now. This guy is handicapped. I'll torture him like I'm torturing a child. Feels so good. Wah, I'll continue to write. There's one more chapter later. Chapter 1020. Yi Shifeng's eyes lit up. His expression became more and more serious as he muttered, the beginning of the 12th lunar month. Ah. Lan Changa is indeed fast, Chu Yang said nervously. Brother Lan, keep quiet. Yi Shifeng turned his head and laughed. He gave Chu Yang a thumbs up and said, Brother Chu, you are a good friend. Chu Yang smiled nervously and said, I only know this much. I even heard it unintentionally. No matter what, I am very grateful. Yi Shifeng held Chu Yang's hand tightly and shook it. Thank you. Chu Yang said sincerely, no matter what, Brother Yi treats me as a friend. I will naturally treat you as a friend. There is no need to be so polite between friends. I shall accept this spirit jade ginseng shamelessly. Yi Shifeng's mouth twitched. He laughed heartily and said, Brother Chu, you are a good friend. You are a good brother. Chu Yang laughed and said, Come, Brother Yi, let's get drunk. Eat more. It is rare to see someone who likes my dishes so much, ha. Yi Shifeng was stuffed with all kinds of food by Chu Yang. He wanted to leave a few times but was forced to stay by Chu Yang on account of their friendship. Only when all the plates and cups were empty did Chu Yang let him go. Yi Shifeng walked out of the orchard palace. He raised his cultivation level and ran. After 2 turns he stood under a tree. He dug his index finger into his mouth and vomited. Fuck him, is this a dish? I ate so many poisons during my anti-poison training, but it was not as bad as this. I'm really speechless. It must have been hard for that guy to enjoy the food so much. He must have not seen the world. Yi Shifeng cursed as he vomited. When old Teng makes his move, I will teach you a lesson until you beg for death. Yi Shifeng finally left. Chu Yang hummed a little tune. He waved his hand and rolled up the mess. Then he threw it to an unknown place. He then played with the spirit jade ginseng with a smug look on his face. Now he was earning money with his brain. This thing came so easily. He had yet to regain his senses. Suddenly, someone shouted from outside, "Brother Chu, are you here?" Chu Yang heard. Yes, someone familiar. It was Meng Sei's voice. His eyebrows twitched. "Another person is here to give me a gift." He hastily rushed out. Yes, 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 I'm here." "Ah, brother. What a rare guest." Meng Sei casually walked in and looked around. "I heard that Brother Chu has beauties here. I wanted to come and take a look." Chu Yang laughed and said, "She's just a concubine. She has the looks of a common willow, a common willow." "Ah." He lowered his voice and said, "He's sleeping." "Ah. Women are always troublesome." As she spoke, she gave him a look that said, "You know what I mean." Meng Sei laughed heartily. "Brother Chu, to tell you the truth, I came here because I have something to ask of you." "What is it?" "As long as my brother needs me, I won't hesitate even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames." Chu Yang passionately patted his chest. His heroic spirit reached the clouds. "Brother Chu, just now I saw Yi Shifeng leave your place in pain and joy." Meng Sei smiled slightly and said seriously, "Yi Shifeng seems to be very unhappy with Brother Chu. He actually said that he wanted to kill you." Brother Chu, you're new here. You don't know the situation in the upper three heavens. Yi clan is the #1 clan. It's unwise for you to offend him." Chu Yang said angrily, "What do you mean? Yi Shifeng was just drinking with me and calling me brother. I even gave him an extremely important piece of news. Why does he want to kill me now?" Meng Sei sighed and said, "Brother Chu, how can you believe the words of such a person?" Chu Yang was startled. He smiled bitterly and said, "Perhaps. However, I don't think Yi Shifeng is a fickle person." Meng Sei laughed and did not comment. "Brother Chu, time will reveal a person's heart. Let's not argue about this. You'll know in the future." As he said, "Ever since I met Brother Chu at the Lake of Despair, we hit it off. During this period of time, I've been extremely busy. Today, I finally managed to find some time to meet Brother Chu." He took out a box and handed it over with both hands. "This is the first time I'm here. Please accept this as a token of my appreciation. It's for Brother Chu's lover, huh?" Chu Yang sighed in his heart. He's indeed the flower protector. Even his gift to me is for a woman. I'm really impressed. He hurriedly received it and said, "Brother, you're too polite. We're brothers after all." However, he had already received it and opened it. He could not help but gasp in surprise. Inside the box was a green fruit. Within the skin of the fruit, there seemed to be dense green smoke flowing slowly. This fruit is called the longevity fruit. As a pharmacist, Brother Chu should have heard of it. Meng Sei smiled reservedly. This fruit can't heal or cure injuries. It can't increase one's cultivation level. Thirdly, it can't strengthen one's spirit. There's only one effect. If a woman consumes it, she will be guaranteed to not age for the rest of her life. Good stuff. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. He couldn't close his mouth. "It just so happens that my wife has been worrying about her youth these past few days. Now that you've come, this worry has been completely dispelled." Brother, it's hard for you to be so considerate." "It's nothing." Meng Sei smiled freely and said, "Besides, I have something to ask of Brother Chu. How can I not give you a gift?" Haha. Chu Yang laughed heartily. He held Meng Sei's arm and warmly let him in. "Brother, you can speak your mind. With our friendship, it's like adding iron to iron. Then I won't beat around the bush." Meng Sei smiled warmly and said, "During this period of time, Brother Chu has been on good terms with Lan Changa of the Lan clan. You've also been on good terms with Yi Shifeng of the Yi clan. Of course, you should know what these two clans are doing now." Chu Yang was stunned for a moment. After a long while, he smiled bitterly and said, "So this is what you're asking about?" He was in a dilemma. At this moment, Zi Sheqing came out of the room. She walked over and said hurriedly, "Chu Yang, I heard there's a longevity fruit?" She had already snatched the box from him. Meng Sei's eyes stared blankly at Zi Sheqing's beautiful face, which should not have appeared in the human world. He actually lost his soul for a moment. After a long while, he still did not regain his senses. Chu Yang called out unhappily, "Brother, brother?" After calling out 2 or 3 times, Meng Sei finally regained his senses. He said infatuated, "Sister-in-law is really beautiful, beautiful. Brother Chu, you really have good luck with women?" His voice was filled with sincere envy. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth and said, "If Brother Chu is in a dilemma, I won't ask further. Just based on sister-in-law's unparalleled beauty, I'll give you this longevity fruit." Zi Sheqing nudged Chu Yang and said, "Just do me a favor. Look at how sincere he is." Chu Yang smiled bitterly. He found a tree branch and wrote a few words on the ground. At the beginning of the month, please take note of the Lan clan's movements. Then he stretched out his leg and wiped it. Meng Sei's expression changed and he laughed. Since Brother Chu is unwilling to say, I'll take my leave. He looked at Chu Yang gratefully and turned to leave. Chu Yang and Zi Sheqing looked at each other and smiled. Zi Sheqing could not help but laugh. She said, You're really sinister. Chu Yang was surprised. I'm sincere in making friends. How can I be sinister? Zi Sheqing snorted and ignored him. She threw the longevity fruit back into his arms and said, I don't need this. Keep it for yourself and give it to your sweetheart. Chu Yang smiled bitterly and kept it. He sighed. It's a pity that my sweetheart can't eat it now. Zi Sheqing snorted and turned back to her room. Then at night the people of the Shao clan also sneakily came to Chu Yang's place with some things. These people had seen Chu Yang's efforts to curry favor during this period of time. Naturally, they could tell that Chu Yang's place was probably the best channel to break through. So they came one after another. After the Shao clan's people coaxed and pestered, as well as sugar-coated attacks, they left behind a large number of valuable things and returned satisfied. This was news from the beginning of the 12th lunar month. In just one day, Chu Yang had already successfully sold to 3 clans. In addition to the Lan clan that formulated the plan and the Zhuge clan that bore the brunt of it, there were already 5 clans that were shortlisted. This kind of momentum was actually enough. But Chu Yang was still not satisfied. The next morning he went out again. He continued to attract bees and butterflies. Of course the effect was very obvious. The Shi clan's people were like flies that had smelled a cracked egg. They followed the scent and came over. Chu Yang had learned his lesson this time. He made his price clear and threw in a lot of money. He did not have to worry that these people would sell him. Even if they wanted to sell him, it would probably be after the matter was over. Before that, if the news was leaked and the Lan clan changed their plan, what would he do? Now Chu Yang only gave one message. When the time comes, we'll see what the Lan clan's people do. Then the Ling clan could not hold back anymore. However, Ling Hanwu had been staying at the Yi clan all this time, only wanting to see Yi Chuchen. But now that Yi Chuchen knew that Meng Chaoran was in the upper 3 heavens, how would she give Ling Hanwu a chance? Therefore, Second Master Ling was now drowning his sorrows in alcohol. The person who came was a martial saint expert from the Ling clan. He was ruthlessly ripped off by Chu Yang. The remaining Chen clan and Li clan did not make any moves. On the 7th night of the 12th lunar month, Nangong Shifeng sneakily came to Chu Yang's courtyard. Is there any new news? There are still people coming at this time? Chu Yang could not help but be a little surprised. No, there's something that I've just found out. I'm specially here to report it to you. Nangong Shifeng laughed and said, It's shocking. I didn't expect that not only the Dharma Supreme and the rest have come. It turns out that on the same day that the Dharma Supreme entered the city, the supreme martial artist Bu Luqing also came to Tianji City. Bu Luqing? Chu Yang was originally half lying down lazily. Once he heard this name he instantly shuddered and sat up straight. His eyes were shining. Did he come by himself, or? Chapter 1021. Nangong Shifeng said, When the Dharma Supreme came, the big clans had sealed off the entire city gate. We couldn't get to the front at all. They also didn't tell anyone that supreme martial artist Bu had entered Tianji City. Today an expert from the Zhuge clan accidentally let it slip and suddenly let everyone know about this news. It's not that we didn't try our best. Nangong Shifeng thought that Chu Yang was blaming him for the late information and hurriedly explained. This wasn't because the big clans were keeping a secret, but because the big clans and the Dharma Supreme had to maintain their reputation. Those who knew would know that it was an honor to be stopped by Bu Luqing, but in this world, most people didn't know. In the ears of ordinary martial artists, they would inevitably think that the big clans and the Dharma Supreme were suppressed by Bu Luqing alone. This would be a huge blow to the reputation of the big clans and the dignity of the law enforcement officers. Therefore they kept it a secret. Chu Yang hurriedly interrupted Nangong Shifeng's explanation. What I'm asking is, did supreme martial artist Bu come alone or with a few people? Or did he bring someone with him? Nangong Shifeng was startled. He didn't know why Chu Yang cared about such trivial matters, but he still hurriedly replied, I heard that supreme martial artist Bu brought his disciple, a little girl in red. It said that supreme martial artist Bu stopped the Dharma Supreme and the supreme experts from the big clans at the city gate to ask for a gift for his disciple. Ha! At this point, Nangong Shifeng also felt that this matter was quite funny. He couldn't help but laugh and said, Supreme martial artist Bu is really not polite. When he heard that supreme martial artist Bu had brought his disciple here, and it was a little girl dressed in red, Chu Yang's mind was shaken. In that instant, he saw stars and a deep sense of longing welled up in his heart. He actually didn't hear what Nangong Shifeng said after that and was in a daze. Nangong Shifeng said a few more words. Seeing that Chu Yang didn't respond, he could only get up and leave. Chu Yang still didn't speak or move. It was only until Nangong Shifeng had left for a long time that Chu Yang opened his eyes and asked anxiously, "Where do they stay?" But no one answered. Looking carefully, there was no trace of Nangong Shifeng in front of him. He smiled bitterly. This guy must have left after seeing that he was in a daze. But thinking about it, there was no need to ask. With Nangong Shifeng's ability, it would be illogical if he could actually find out where Bu Luqing stayed. Chu Yang heaved a long sigh of relief. "Xiaowu, you're here. You are finally here. I'm finally going to see you again." Chu Yang was very excited. Even though she kept reminding herself to stay calm, she was still so excited that her whole body was hot and her face was red. He suddenly stood up and paced back and forth in the room. Looking at the dark night, Chu Yang couldn't help but have an impulse. Immediately find Imo Qingwu and see how my little Wu is now. He thought about how Imo Qingwu would jump on top of him the moment she saw him. Her tender lotus-like arms would wrap around his neck, and she would sweetly call out, "Elder brother Chu Yang, I missed you so much." Chu Yang couldn't help but smile from the bottom of his heart. Chu Yang couldn't hold back his emotions any longer. He pushed open the door and walked out. The oncoming cold wind blew against his face. Chu Yang quivered and suddenly stopped in his tracks. He longed to see Imo Qingwu. So, he was naturally very eager to see her. He believed that Xiao Wu was also very eager to see him. However, if he were to see Imo Qingwu now, the little girl would definitely stick to his side. He didn't have to worry about her getting in his way, but the people from the big aristocratic families would definitely recognize Imo Qingwu. If they knew that he was so close to Imo Qingwu and that there was Bu Luqing behind them, would they be suspicious of his arrangements for the past few days, or change anything? Chu Yang smiled bitterly. There was no need to even think about it. When the time came, there would definitely be a huge impact. Chu Yang hesitated. Finally, he turned around and returned to his room. Today was already the 7th day of the 12th lunar month. Tomorrow was the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, and the day after tomorrow was the 1st day of the 12th lunar month. There were only 2 days and 2 nights left. After the night of the day after tomorrow, everything should be fine. But all the plans that I had painstakingly prepared would be disrupted if I went to humiliate Imo Qingwu. Then I would have been blinded by impulsiveness. There were only 2 days left. There were only 2 days left. Chu Yang tried his best to comfort himself and forced himself to calm down. But he still felt as if his heart was being scratched by hundreds of scratches, and was being fried by fire. He raised his head and gulped down 2 cups of ice-cold tea. He was actually gasping for breath. With a flash of white, Zi Shiqing entered. "What's wrong?" Zi Shiqing looked at him. "Nothing." Chu Yang shook his head in annoyance and sat down. He had always thought that his self-control was extremely high, and there were very few people in this world who could compare with him. But ever since he heard about Imo Qingwu, Chu Yang realized that he had overestimated himself. Zi Shiqing looked at him mockingly. "I just heard that a peak supreme martial artist came." "Yes." Chu Yang nodded. "I'll wait for you to finish these 2 days. I'll go meet him and see what level a peak supreme martial artist in Zhongtian is at." Zi Shiqing smiled lightly. "Then you should go look for the Dharma Supreme," Chu Yang said. Because of his relationship with Imo Qingwu, Chu Yang had also developed a bit of a family mentality towards Bu Luqing and Ning Tianya. Besides, if Bu Luqing was abused, Imo Qingwu would definitely be unhappy. Zi Shiqing looked at him. This supreme martial artist also brought a little disciple in red. "Well, it's a girl. She shouldn't be old, right? About the same as Le?" Chu Yang nodded. "About the same. Well, if she's over 14 years old, she should be called a young girl. But Nangong said that she was a little girl." Zi Shiqing said, "And you're so annoyed it shouldn't be because of this? Bu Luqing, right?" Chu Yang finally calmed down and coughed awkwardly. "So, it's actually because of that little girl?" Zi Shiqing looked at him. Cough cough cough. Chu Yang coughed violently. "Ha ha ha." Zi Shiqing finally couldn't help but laugh. "I didn't expect that the wise and tenacious Duke Chu would actually dream of a little girl." "Ah, a little girl about the same age as Lu? Is Duke Chu's dream lover?" Chu Yang said with a black face. "Your laughter is really unpleasant." It was the first time Zi Shiqing laughed like this. It was really too unexpected. the tenacious Chuyang, the brave Chuyang, the quick-witted Chuyang, the ruthless Chuyang, the 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 Chuyang. The Chuyang, the Chuyang, the Chuyang, the Chuyang, the Chuyang, the Chuyang. At this moment all these images were shattered. Zi Shiqing kept smacking her lips. TSK, 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 really? Duke Chu, your feelings are really unique. TSK, I didn't expect that you have such a hobby. I really have a whole new level of respect for you. Chuyang flew into a rage out of humiliation. He said fiercely, what? Zi Shiqing snorted and said, I just admire you very much, what else can it be? This little girl has just arrived and you're so agitated. Looks like you haven't seen her for a long time. Then, you know her, or the last time you saw her was at least 1 or 2 years ago, right? 1 or 2 years ago she was only 10 years old. Ah, she's only 10 years old, right? Chuyang was speechless. You should go to sleep. Zi Shiqing snorted. Only 10 years old, TSK, TSK, there are so many experts in the heavenly layer. Even ordinary people might not be able to start a girl at 10 years old. Ah. Zi Shiqing rocked back and forth. Chuyang, you're really too amazing. I've been to so many planes, but this is the first time I've heard of such a thing. You're really the first, you've given me such a huge surprise. Chuyang finally couldn't take it anymore. Have you said enough? Little, so what? Let me tell you, even if you marry me in the future, you have to call her big sister obediently. Do you understand? I'll marry you? Zi Shiqing snorted. Dream on. Chuyang snorted and said, even if you're a concubine, you have to call her big sister. Zi Shiqing stopped laughing and looked fiercely at Chuyang. Suddenly she waved her hand and sent out a ball of divine sense, completely shielding the entire small courtyard. Then she grabbed Chuyang's collar and dragged him out. Very good, very good. You're very good, I haven't trained you these few days and you actually have the guts to tease me. Come, I'll help you understand. Zi Shiqing gritted her teeth and said. Chuyang softened instantly and smiled apologetically. Actually, it's just a joke. Isn't it normal for us to joke around? Before he could finish his words, Zi Shiqing had already pulled him out of the house. I solemnly declare, a gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. Chuyang knew that this time, under Zi Shiqing's rage, he was afraid that he would be very miserable. He tried his best to find an excuse to avoid it. Unfortunately, I'm not a gentleman, I'm a woman. Zi Shiqing gritted her teeth. With a flick of her wrist, Chuyang's body involuntarily turned around. His buttocks faced Zi Shiqing and he actually involuntarily stuck out, posing an absolutely suitable kicking posture. I'll let you tease me. Zi Shiqing kicked Chuyang's buttocks fiercely. Swoosh. Chuyang let out a blood-curdling scream. Then he flew straight into the endless night sky like a rocket. He actually only landed after a while. It was obvious how high he flew. To put it bluntly, if Chuyang could fly so high with his own strength, then in this heavenly continent he would definitely be ranked in the top 10 in terms of lightness skill. I'll let you be a concubine. Another kick. Swoosh. Chuyang flew up again like he was riding on clouds. Just 2 kicks and his buttocks were already as swollen as a millstone. I'll let you be a big sister. Another kick. Bam. Bam. Minister Chu spent most of the night flying in the air. This kind of flying man with his cultivation sealed and being kicked in the air was really not a good feeling. Especially on a cold winter night. When Zi Shiqing finally showed mercy and released Chuyang, Minister Chu was already frozen like a popsicle. This was the price of having a cheap mouth. At this moment, Chuyang touched his almost transparent buttocks and suddenly thought of Nangong Shurfeng. Sigh, what bad luck. One is marked by the company one keeps. That old fellow is infected. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.